Chapter 1519. For Jiang Chun, things like formations and boundaries were simply nonsense. Even if it was a formation set up by a celestial king, it was only a matter of time for Jiang Chun to break it. At this moment, in front of Jiang Chun, everything was clear. He saw many experts from Miracle Valley, but he did not see Nian Changa's figure. Hand over Nian Changa. Jiang Chun's face was cold as he looked at the main hall, where a black-haired man was standing. Jiang Chun knew this person. It was the sect leader of Miracle Valley. Back then, it was also this person who led the rebellion against the 10,000 creations immortal sect. Should I call you young master or Jiang Chun? Or 10,000 transformations? The sect leader of Miracle Valley asked with a faint smile, but the cold light in his eyes was as sharp as a sword. Hand over Nian Changa. Jiang Chun still said the same thing. He did not want to talk nonsense with these people. However, it was easier said than done to get them to hand over someone in the territory of Miracle Valley. What's more, Miracle Valley was backed by 3 celestial kings. Not only did they have a deep foundation, but their own strength was also very strong. Facing a declining young master of the 10,000 creations immortal sect, who would be afraid of him? If it weren't for the agreement of 1,000 years and the 2 realms, Jiang Chun would have been killed long ago. You should be aware of your own situation, the sect leader of Miracle Valley said softly. If you leave now, I can spare your life on account of our past friendship. Otherwise, there are many people in Miracle Valley who can kill you. Hand over Nian Changa, and I can guarantee that Miracle Valley will not be destroyed today. Jiang Chun stared at him, his heart filled with killing intent. However, these words were undoubtedly a big joke in everyone's ears. A mere first-stage true immortal, even if he had a celestial king by his side, so what? Did he think that he could destroy Miracle Valley with just the 2 of them? The reason why Miracle Valley could stand in the North region until now was not only because of the protection of the 3 celestial kings, but also because Miracle Valley's strength was not weak. Jiang Chun, you have a celestial king by your side, but my Miracle Valley also has one. The sect leader of Miracle Valley said contemptuously, You may not know, but a few years ago, my Miracle Valley had a 2nd celestial king. Is that so? You seem very confident and conceited. Jiang Chun raised his eyebrows. Just as he was about to call out the group of celestial kings from the overseas celestial mountains, the sect leader of the mystical valley suddenly said, I really want to kill you. Perhaps we can make a deal. Oh, what kind of deal? Jiang Chun asked. He was curious. What kind of deal could there be between 2 enemies? As long as you agree to fight with my Miracle Valley's disciple, if you win, I will release Nian Changa. If you lose, then you will die here, Miracle Valley Master said. How about it? Jiang Chun could not help snickering when he heard that. If the immortal kings of the overseas immortal mountains all came out, then there was no need to agree to this request. However, Jiang Chun also thought about it for a moment. If all the immortal kings of the immortal mountains outside the sea appeared, then it would undoubtedly expose Jiang Chun's greatest trump card. At that time, not to mention the white-robed celestial king. If the other 2 celestial kings knew about this situation, they would not be at ease to let Jiang Chun live. After careful consideration, Jiang Chun nodded and said, As you wish. Miracle Valley Master smiled, and then said softly, Huan Mo, go and fight with this former young master. After that, he paused for a moment, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly with a trace of killing intent. Life or death. However, when Huan Mo heard that, his face darkened. He had seen Jiang Chun kill Mystic 3 with his own eyes. His strength was naturally not comparable to Mystic 3's. Now that he was asked to fight, wasn't that the same as sending himself to death? Father, I am not feeling well recently. Huan Mo covered his abdomen and said, Recently, there was a mistake in my cultivation. I am not in a good condition to fight. Miracle Valley Master frowned and looked at Huan Mo from head to toe. After checking with his divine sense, he found that Huan Mo's body was fine. This made Miracle Valley Master a little angry. He said in a low voice, You are my 3rd son, the 3rd young master of Miracle Valley. Now that you are afraid of fighting, aren't you disgracing Miracle Valley? With your cultivation, It is more than enough to kill Jiang Chun. Hearing his father's words, Huanimo almost burst into tears. He had heard of deceiving his father, but he had never heard of deceiving his son. You really want me to throw away my life? Father, I have been enlightened recently, and I plan to go into seclusion now. Huanimo would not fight even if he was beaten to death. After saying that, he turned around and was about to leave. However, his father was also a weirdo. With a gentle push of his hand, he pushed Huanimo in front of Jiang Chun. At this moment, loud cheers could be heard all around. Those were the disciples of Miracle Valley. They were all cheering for Illusion Demon. Huanimo's heart sank to the bottom. What the F***, CK? Are you trying to trick your son? Boom! At this moment, before Illusory Demon could react, Jiang Chun threw a punch over. The radiance of his fist was like a real dragon. There were even roses blooming. The time in this space seemed to have been frozen in an instant. Then the crowd saw Illusion Demon standing there, petrified. He saw Jiang Chun's fist strike him, and in the end, he was sent flying. Along the way, blood spurted out. Before he fell to the ground, his body had been shattered, and in the end, not even his divine soul was left, dead. Something big happened. The third young master of Miracle Valley is dead. The surrounding exclamations were like thunder, and those who were watching from afar were even more shocked. You killed the third young master of Miracle Valley in Miracle Valley? Can you be any more gutsy? Old man, you are useless, and your son is also useless. Jiang Chun joked. Don't you have 3 sons? Now that one is dead, there are 2 more. Damn, this guy wants Miracle Valley to have no descendants. So cruel, killing the heart. But how can the master of Miracle Valley send the other 2 sons to fight? What if they really die in the battle? At this moment, the master of Miracle Valley looked terrible. Huanimo did not even make a move and was killed in an instant. His heart was bleeding. Now, after being ridiculed by Jiang Chun, the anger in his heart could no longer be contained. Wait, don't run! The master of Miracle Valley shouted angrily. His eyes were red, and he shouted, Huan Heng, you go! Previously, the master of Miracle Valley had 3 sons beside him. But now, as his voice fell, he found that no one answered. When he looked back, he found that the other 2 sons had already run away. How ran away? The 3 sons of Miracle Valley are said to be dragons and phoenixes among men. But now, there was a burst of mocking laughter all around. The master of Miracle Valley's face was completely dark. At this moment, he was silent. He was not stupid. Since his sons avoided the battle, it meant that Jiang Chun was extremely powerful. Then, after thinking about it, he felt that no disciple should be sent out for this battle. I will fight with you. After a few breaths, the master of Miracle Valley suppressed his cultivation on the spot, stepped out, and stood not far away from Jiang Chun. This scene really made everyone speechless. Although the master of Miracle Valley suppressed his cultivation was still at the 9th level of Golden Immortal, which was 1 level higher than Jiang Chun. The most important thing was that this guy was a real celestial king. After suppressing his cultivation, his understanding and application of the Great Tao was not comparable to Jiang Chun, a genuine celestial. Old man, you are really shameless. Miracle Valley, its reputation is really bad now. Chapter 15:20. Jiang Chun was a little confused. Why are you so shameless? A celestial king wants to fight with me? You should at least suppress your cultivation to the same level as me. Miraculous Valley Master, even if you win, it won't sound good, right? Aren't you bullying others? Around them, many people were watching the battle. At this moment, some people were joking and some were ridiculing the Miraculous Valley Master. However, at this point, how could the Miraculous Valley Master retreat? His son was killed. How could he not take revenge? Moreover, in his eyes, today was the best time to kill Jiang Chun. Zhou Kunlun was not here, and Jiang Chun was willing to fight with him in order to save Nianchanga. When would there be a better opportunity than today? Old man, if I defeat you, shouldn't you hand over Nianchanga? Jiang Chun asked. Of course, I am the Miraculous Valley. How could I lie to you in front of so many people? The miraculous Valley Master said. However, no one will believe him when he said that. After all, the miraculous valley had betrayed its master for glory and betrayed him. Now, how many people in the world would believe the words of the miraculous valley? Well, I hope you can keep your promise. If you go back on your words, Jiangchen said coldly. Don't talk nonsense. I will kill you today. The miraculous valley master was impatient. With a roar, he immediately stepped out. Like a stream of light, he flashed in front of Jiangchen. He struck out with his palm. A palm print was like a stone tablet. It was as black as ink, but it contained endless brilliance. This was the unique skill of the miraculous valley, dark light shatter. If the miraculous valley master struck out with this palm, with the cultivation of a celestial king, it would be able to shatter light and darkness. However, with his current cultivation, this palm strike seemed powerful, but it was not enough to enter Jiang Chen's eyes. Jiang Chen moved horizontally, raised his hand, and punched out. The fist radiance turned into sword radiance and forced the miraculous valley master to retreat. Then, Jiang Chen used the saint healing technique to prepare for future troubles. Holy healing technique? Divination pavilion? Someone with sharp eyes cried out in surprise. However, after thinking about it, they felt that this might just be a coincidence. After all, the Heaven's Secret Pavilion was mysterious. Jiang Chen, who was an enemy of the three celestial kings, couldn't join the Heaven's Secret Pavilion, and the Heaven's Secret Pavilion wouldn't accept him. Brat! The glory of the past was long gone. Now you should be like your father. You can either be sealed forever or die. The mysterious valley master roared. Suddenly, the sky darkened as a bolt of lightning descended from the sky and bombarded Jiang Chen's body. This was an array formation. Lightning array. Apparently, the master of Miracle Valley had extraordinary attainments in array formations. He secretly set up an array formation to kill Jiang Chen with one blow. However, Jiang Chen was already prepared. Under the saint healing technique, he only suffered some superficial wounds. Array formation? I think you want to die. Jiang Chen shouted contemptuously. With a wave of his hand, runes appeared around him. Then, a large killing array rose immediately. The sword radiance collided with flames and ice. The strong wind was like a tornado, which directly submerged the master of Miracle Valley. Boom! However, the next moment, with a loud explosion, the master of Miracle Valley escaped. At the same time, a long saber in his hand bloomed with light. This is a celestial artifact, a weapon refined by a celestial king? Master of Miracle Valley, can you be more shameless? The people around couldn't stand it anymore. This was a weapon refined by a celestial king with his own Tao fruit. Its power was equal to that of a celestial king. Using this weapon to fight with Jiang Chen, wasn't this pure abuse? Jiang Chen was also stunned. He secretly thought that the master of Miracle Valley was so shameless. Jiang Chen also knew very well that with his cultivation, he could never compete with a celestial artifact. At this moment, Jiang Chen simply ignored it and shouted to Bai Xiaoyan, "Kill him. You think I'm afraid of you?" The master of Miracle Valley was also angry. He no longer suppressed his cultivation and released it on the spot. He stretched out his palm and at the same time slashed across with his saber. He wanted to kill Jiang Chen before Bai Xiaoyan could make a move. However, when he struck out with his palm, his expression suddenly changed. Because at this moment, a figure appeared in front of Jiang Chen. I say, Miracle Valley is only capable of this? The master of the sea sect said contemptuously. He pushed out his palms and dissolved the attack of the master of Miracle Valley. Then, Bai Xiaoyan came in front of the master of Miracle Valley and slapped him cleanly, sending him flying. How dare you? How dare you hurt the master of Miracle Valley? At this moment, in the main hall of Miracle Valley, two people rushed out one after another. They were both true celestial kings. Miracle Valley was prepared and invited celestial kings from other sects. This is a sure kill move. The crowd was shocked. They thought to themselves that Jiang Chun would really die here today. However, in the face of three celestial kings, including the master of Miracle Valley, Jiang Chun was incomparably calm. He glanced at Bai Xiaoyun and the master of the Sea sect and said softly, "Can you deal with them, Master Hai?" "I don't know if I can, but I can deal with the three of them alone." Bai Xiaoyun was very confident. After all, his Dao fruit was personally cultivated by the white-robed celestial king. His cultivation foundation was extremely deep and was not comparable to a wild, celestial king like the master of Miracle Valley. "You're powerful. You go," the master of the Sea sect muttered. In the previous battle, he was almost beaten to death by Bai Xiaoyun. Now, since Bai Xiaoyun wanted to go, he was too lazy to make a move. He was happy to be idle. Boom! At this moment, Bai Xiaoyun rushed down like a fierce tiger. She attacked wildly and suppressed the master of Miracle Valley and the other two in a few breaths. Then, Bai Xiaoyun opened her hands and 3 rays of Saint Light fell and turned into a cage, imprisoning the 3 of them. "You're from the Heaven's Secret Pavilion?" The power of light attribute. Saint Light cage. She's definitely from the Heaven's Secret Pavilion. At this moment, the master of Miracle Valley and the others came to their senses and thought that they had really provoked a ruthless person this time. However, it was obviously too late for them to react. How should we deal with them? At this moment, Bai Xiaoyun looked at Jiang Chun. As long as Jiang Chun nodded, the 3 of them would definitely die. Jiang Chun naturally would not give them a way out, but before he spoke, he saw a very familiar man appear out of thin air. This person was Xian Jun, who loved to appear in front of the world the most among the 3 celestial kings. "Miracle Valley is my sect." Immortal King Xian Jun did not say much, but the meaning of this sentence was already very obvious. With him here, the master of Miracle Valley and the other 2 would not die. "Xian Jun, why are you running around all day long? Look at the other 2 celestial kings. You haven't seen them even once in hundreds of years." Bai Xiaoyun said snappily, "You don't come out for a day because you're afraid that others will forget you, right?" This makes a lot of sense. Around them, many people held back their laughter, but in their hearts, they still tacitly agreed with Bai Xiaoyun's words. Immortal King Xian Jun was old and thick-skinned. His face was not red, and his heart was not beating fast. He said, "Today's matter. Let's stop here. You think we'll stop just because you say so? Xian Jun, you have to understand that if you're alone, my Heaven's Secret Pavilion really won't be afraid of you." Bai Xiaoyun raised her eyebrows. Chapter 15:21. The reason why the Heaven's Secrets Pavilion was so powerful was mainly because of the white robe Immortal King. This guy was really a good-for-nothing. He was clearly one of the 3 Immortal Kings, but he hid it from the other 2. As a result, the other 2 Immortal Kings were very afraid of the Heaven's Secrets Pavilion and couldn't figure out the Heaven's Secrets Pavilion's background. If the other 2 Immortal Kings knew that the Pavilion Master of the Heaven's Secrets Pavilion was their comrade, they would probably be angered to death. It was precisely because of this that both Xian Jun and the other Immortal King were very afraid of the Heaven's Secrets Pavilion. Just like last time, when Jiang Chun messed with the rankings, this matter was reported to Xian Jun. In the end, Xian Jun was really afraid of the Heaven's Secrets Pavilion Master and went into seclusion. Now that Bai Xiaoyun said that she was from the Heaven's Secrets Pavilion, Xian Jun naturally panicked. Of course, it wasn't because he was afraid, but because he felt that it wasn't worth it for him to start a war with the Heaven's Secrets Pavilion Master for the sake of a few people under him. "I've lived for so many years, seeking luck and avoiding calamity. How can I lower myself to your level?" Xian Jun thought to himself. He only wanted to live. As for the others, he would care if he could. If he couldn't, what did it have to do with him, Immortal King Xian Jun? Let him go, and this matter will be considered over. Xian Jun thought for a moment. Wasn't it just because of a little country bumpkin from the lower realm? Was there a need to do this? "Immortal King, that kid has 72 lotuses," Mystical Valley Master said. Seeing that Immortal King Xian Jun was here, he naturally had the confidence and didn't want to hand over Nian Chang'e. When Immortal King Xian Jun heard this, his expression immediately became strange. He also knew about the 72 lotuses, and he also knew that the 72 lotuses' divine abilities were extremely mysterious. Even now, no one in this world knew what the 72 divine abilities of the 72 lotuses were. Oh, there's such a person? Bring him out for me to see. Immortal King Xianjun was curious. He then looked at Jiang Chun and the others and said, I'll just take a look, I won't hurt him. After all, we are all reputable figures and have made a 1,000-year agreement with Zhou Kunlun. What you said is true, Jiang Chun muttered. Then, the Miracle Valley Master brought the unconscious Nian Chang'e up and released the 72 lotuses of Nian Chang'e. In an instant, the world was filled with 7 colors. Beams of light spread out, and after a careful count, there were exactly 72 beams. Oh, seriously injured? Immortal King Xianjun frowned. With a flick of his finger, he sent a strand of essence energy into Nian Chang'e's body. After a few breaths of time, Nian Chang'e woke up. When she opened her eyes and saw Jiang Chun, Nian Chang'e's face lit up with excitement. She put away the 72 lotuses and ran to Jiang Chun's side. I thought I would never see you again. Nian Chang'e sighed with emotion. She didn't understand what was going on. What happened? Why are you so injured after just ascending? Jiang Chun asked. Don't mention it. After I ascended, I landed here. I saw that the runes on both sides of the cliff were strange, so I wanted to comprehend them. In the end, a monster jumped out and injured me. Nian Chang'e said with a lingering fear. When everyone heard this, they were also puzzled. There were indeed obscure runes on both sides of the cliff in the Miracle Valley, but there was a monster in the cliff? This was unheard of. Even the Miracle Valley didn't know about this. Kid, don't talk nonsense. The Miracle Valley Master said in a deep voice. My Miracle Valley is a place with good feng shui, a holy land for cultivation. Where did the monster come from? You are slandering my Miracle Valley and affecting my recruitment of disciples. What the F***CK? Does this old man have any shame? Treacherous, ungrateful, and used a celestial artifact to bully a genuine immortal. This kind of sect has such a bad reputation. Who will want to come? Someone muttered. In this regard, the Miracle Valley Master was extremely thick-skinned. He pretended not to hear it, and then looked at Immortal King Xianjun and said, Immortal King, we can't hand this person over. If we can comprehend the divine ability of the 72 lotuses, it might be a supreme, celestial art. Immortal King Xianjun nodded. He naturally knew about the magic of the 72 lotuses. There was also a legend in the celestial world. In ancient times, there was also someone who had the 72 lotuses. After comprehending it thoroughly, a supreme celestial art was born. The later generations called it the 72 transformations. The so-called 72 transformations was naturally not a transformation, but the 72 transformations of the celestial art. Fire to water, water to thunder, thunder to wood, wood to wood. It was an immortal art that could turn the impossible into the possible and fuse the most fundamental profundities of all immortal arts together. This celestial art could be said that as long as one learned it, they would learn all the celestial arts in the world. However, this was only a legend. No one in the celestial world had ever seen the 72 lotuses. No one expected that the 72 lotuses recorded in the celestial world would appear in the lower realm. And now, the person who had the 72 lotuses had come to the celestial world. Kid, I see that your bones are amazing. Why don't you come to my sect, and I will teach you personally? Immortal King Xianjun said. As soon as this was said, the Miracle Valley Master's face immediately turned ugly. The Miracle Valley wanted to take Nian Chang'e for themselves, but now that Immortal King Xianjun had spoken, Nian Chang'e had no part in it. What are you thinking? He is Jiang Chen's friend. Naturally, he will join my divine secret pavilion. Bai Xiaoyan immediately said. Naturally, she was also worried about Nian Chang'e. After all, Jiang Chun and Nian Chang'e still had that layer of relationship, and Jiang Chun and the 3 celestial kings were mortal enemies. If Nian Chang'e became Xianjun's disciple, it might be like a sheep entering the tiger's mouth. This is... Nian Chang'e was still in a state of confusion. She pointed at Xianjun and asked Jiangchen, "This is my mortal enemy, one of the three celestial kings." Jiangchen said, "This is not a good person." Oh! Nian Chang'e immediately felt relieved. She shook her head and said, "I won't come to your sect. Even if you become my disciple, it won't affect your relationship with Jiangchen. I just cherish talent." Xianjun said, "Anyway, you are just a flash in the pan. After 1,000 years, you will all die. And if you can become my disciple, maybe after the 1,000-year agreement, I can still let you continue to live." Xianjun's words were not right, but they were also right. After all, no one knew what would happen after 1,000 years of regret. No one knew if Jiangchen and the others could compete with the three celestial kings after 1,000 years. If they couldn't compete, then it was naturally a dead end. "You are one of the three celestial kings. Why would you value me? You value my 72 lotuses, right?" Nian Chang'e muttered. "Besides, you are Jiangchen's enemy, so naturally you are my enemy. You accepted me as your disciple. Is it really just because you cherish talent?" "This? Of course, I also want to see the 72 lotuses," Xianjun said. "Whether you are willing or not, you have to understand that you have no foundation in the celestial realm. If you become my disciple, you will have a foundation. Maybe within 1,000 years, you can really stand shoulder to shoulder with me. I say, why don't you become Xianjun's disciple?" Just as Nian Chang'e was about to continue to refuse, Jiangchen said with a strange expression, "Become his disciple and empty his pockets. This. Will it work?" Nian Chang'e asked weakly. "I think it will work. After all..." Jiangchen's expression became more and more strange. He really wanted to tell Nian Chang'e that he was now one of the Celestial King's disciples and was emptying his pockets. "Now, even the pavilion of divination is mine." Chapter 15:22. For the three immortal kings, they actually didn't have any pursuits in their lives. They had seen through everything in the world and had no desires in their lives. If they really had any ideas, then, other than becoming an immortal emperor, they would play some new tricks. For example, taking in disciples. For immortal King Xianjun, he was really too bored. Otherwise, how could he appear in front of the world all day long? Now he encountered an interesting thing, and that was the 72 lotuses. This undoubtedly aroused his interest. So what if the other party was Jiangchen's good friend? For Xianjun, not to mention 1,000 years. So what if he gave you another 10,000 years? Even a rare genius would find it difficult to become an immortal king within 1,000 years, let alone a peak immortal king. I'm just interested. Life is too boring, so I should do something interesting. Immortal King Xianjun said. Hearing this, Nian Chang'e thought for a moment. Since that was the case, so what if she became immortal King Xianjun's disciple? In any case, the other party was such a big immortal king. There was no need to scheme with him. Then, can I not call you master? Nian Chang'e asked. It's fine, just give me a name. Xianjun nodded. When these words came out, the hearts of Mystical Valley Master and the others turned cold. What the hell are you doing? Jiangchen didn't kill them and didn't help his own people. Instead, he snatched them away. Mystical Valley Master was really angry, but didn't dare to say anything. Then let's forget about today's matter, Xianjun said, and then left with Nian Chang'e. The group of people was in a mess. No one had expected that the outcome would be like this. I can't touch you, but I can't touch the people around you. Just you wait. A mere young master will play you to death sooner or later. Mystical Valley Master stared at Jiangchen, thinking of a way. Jiangchen didn't care at all. No matter what the Mystical Valley did, he was not afraid. After all, he was now the leader of the overseas Immortal Mountain. With such an identity, even the three immortal kings had to be wary. Don't let the Mystical Valley fall into my hands in the future, or else. Jiangchen said coldly, and then left with Bai Shaoyan and Sect Master Hai. As for the other immortal kings, they had been hiding all this time, not coming out. Therefore, up until now, Miracle Valley Master still didn't know how deep Jiangchen's foundation was. Coming out of the Miracle Valley, Jiangchen met the Green-Head Overlord, Wang Zhan. When this guy saw Jiang Chun, he walked over with a smile. He put down his arrogant attitude, lowered his head, and cupped his hands. "Greetings, Alliance leader." "Well done," Jiang Chun said softly. He patted Wang Zhan's shoulder and said, "You've been moving around outside a lot. Help me investigate these two people." Then, Jiang Chun handed Wang Zhan the portraits of Yueshin and Mu Yud that he had prepared beforehand. When Wang Zhan heard this, he immediately patted his chest and promised that he would complete the task. Of course, Jiang Chun could also guess what Wang Zhan was thinking. Without waiting for Wang Zhan to speak, Jiang Chun softly said, "I won't treat the Mingyue sect unfairly." "Thank you, Alliance head." Although Wang Zhan was arrogant, he still had a sense of propriety. Especially things that were beneficial to his own sect. He would do his best to complete them. Next, Jiang Chun naturally planned to return to the Divine Secrets Pavilion. However, at this moment, Jiang Chun thought of the Kunlun Celestial Mountain. Calculating the distance, this place was not very far from the Kunlun Celestial Mountain. There was no harm in taking a look. Just like that, the group walked towards the Kunlun Celestial Mountain. "Little junior brother, is the Kunlun Celestial Mountain powerful?" Bai Xiaoyan asked curiously. She had heard of the Kunlun Celestial Mountain, but had never seen it with her own eyes. Hearing this, Jiang Chun rolled his eyes. No matter how powerful the Kunlun Celestial Mountain was, it was probably not as powerful as the Divine Secrets Pavilion. Look at the Divine Secrets Pavilion. There were so many disciples, except for Jiang Chun and Bai Xiaolan. Which one of them was not an immortal king? Moreover, they were all real immortal kings, not pseudo-immortal kings. Let's go to the Kunlun Celestial Mountain. I should also go into seclusion for a while. My cultivation is too low, Jiang Chun muttered. Today's time in the immortal world was not short, but Jiang Chun's cultivation had not improved much. Now, the people from the lower realm were ascending one after another. If Jiang Chun's cultivation did not improve, sooner or later, he would be surpassed by them. At that time, as the boss, if his cultivation was lower than his underlings, this was too embarrassing. Of course, when they were in the lower realm, Jiang Chun's cultivation had always been lower than theirs. He was used to it, but after coming to the immortal world, Jiang Chun felt that he needed to change. Half a day later, Jiang Chun led the group to the entrance of the Kunlun Celestial Mountain. As soon as they arrived, they saw a group of people surrounding the entrance of the Kunlun Celestial Mountain. "What's going on?" Jiang Chun curiously went over and asked one of them. "What are you doing?" That person did not even turn his head and said bluntly, "What else can we do? We're waiting for that kid Jiang Chun. He set up a bet and cheated us of our treasures." When Jiang Chun heard this, he immediately felt a little embarrassed. "Good heavens, it's been so long and you're still thinking about me? Waiting for me at the entrance of the Kunlun Celestial Mountain day and night. Are you sure that I will definitely come back? It's useless for you to wait here." Hasn't Jiang Chun been expelled from the Kunlun Celestial Mountain? Jiang Chun asked, covering his face, not wanting to be recognized. "What can we do? We're already bankrupt. What else can we do other than wait here?" That person said in a bad mood. Just as he finished speaking, that person was stunned for a moment and muttered, "This voice." Then he turned around. When he saw Jiang Chun covering his face, that guy cried out, "Jiang Chun? Ah!" Jiang Chun was stunned. He covered his face. How could he be recognized? "Even if you cover your face, I can recognize you. Come quickly. Jiang Chun is back." At this moment, outside the Kunlun Celestial Mountain, the crowd was in an uproar. A group of people quickly surrounded Jiang Chun. But in the next moment, this group of people cowered again. This was because Bai Xiaoyan immediately displayed the aura of an immortal king, intimidating this group of people. "I said that it's useless for you to wait here for me," Jiang Chun said with a smile. Now that there were so many immortal kings by his side, what was there to be afraid of? But at that moment, someone walked up and took out an IOU, saying, "I'm from the Ganges Bank." Someone said that he's your close friend. He used your name to borrow a sum of money from the Ganges Bank. Take a look. Jiang Chun was a little confused. He didn't have many close friends in the immortal world. Could it be that someone was plotting against him? However, When Jiang Chun took the IOU and saw the crooked handwriting at the bottom, he almost fainted. Father's handwriting? Jiang Chun almost cursed in his heart. This scammer, instead of staying in the Kunlun Celestial Mountain, he ran out to borrow money to play. Others are good brothers. You are good father. Chapter 15:23. Jiang Chun was in a mess. Didn't his father know about his current situation? If the three celestial kings found out, it would be a big problem. He might even be killed on the spot. At that time, even if there was Kunlun Celestial Mountain, Wancheng wouldn't be able to hide. Oh, this is indeed a friend of mine, Jiang Chun hurriedly said. He didn't dare to say anything else and paid this sum of money on the spot. However, what Jiang Chun didn't expect was that after the person from the Ganges riverbank took the money, he took out another IOU and said, "This is also owed by that person." Ah! Jiang Chun was dumbfounded. What did his father do? Why did he owe so much? However, afraid that Wancheng's matter would be exposed, Jiang Chun didn't dare to say much and paid the money again. This amount of money was nothing to Jiang Chun. After all, he had made a fortune when he set up the life and death arena. In addition, when he left Kunlun Celestial Mountain, he made another fortune. Now, Jiang Chun's wealth was huge. However, what Jiang Chun didn't expect was that this guy took out another IOU and said awkwardly, "Look at this." Jiang Chun was speechless. His face darkened and he asked, "How much does he owe? How many IOUs do you have? Take them all out at once." When the person from the Ganges riverbank heard this, he frowned and asked, "How is your psychological endurance?" "What do you mean?" Jiang Chun was stunned and suddenly had a bad feeling. "It's like this. Your friend owes a lot of money to my Ganges riverbank. I'm afraid you can't bear it," this person said weakly. Seeing that there was a celestial king beside Jiang Chun, he didn't dare to speak loudly. However, it was natural to pay debts. He was just following orders to collect money. "Just say it. How much money does he owe? I'll pay it all today," Jiang Chun said unhappily. He thought to himself that he was already a rich man. How could he be short of money? But in the next moment, when this person took out all the IOUs, Jiang Chun suddenly felt that he had underestimated his father. There are a total of 346 IOUs. In terms of immortal stones, it's a total of 1.7 billion. Adding the interest, 2.3 billion. The person from the eternal riverbank said. At this moment, Jiang Chun rolled his eyes. He almost blacked out. He almost fainted. 2.3 billion? This was an astronomical figure. No matter how rich Jiang Chun was, he couldn't take out so much money. There's a good saying, every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. Whoever asks you to borrow, you should ask them to take it back. Jiang Chun said in a deep voice. Are you kidding me? If he had known that his father owed so much, Jiang Chun would never have helped him pay it back. After all, Jiang Chun couldn't afford it. Besides, Jiang Chun's cultivation was low now, and he had to practice multiple cultivation methods at the same time. He needed a lot of cultivation resources and a lot of money. If he used all the money to pay off Wancheng's debt, what would he do? Can we talk somewhere else? The person from the eternal riverbank blinked his eyes. Jiang Chun's heart skipped a beat. He nodded and walked away with the person. Maybe you don't know about the eternal riverbank, but you can ask around. Not only is the eternal riverbank rich, we also have an intelligence network which covers the entire immortal realm. The person said. So what? Jiang Chun asked, puzzled. So what if your eternal riverbank is powerful? I'm still the pavilion leader of the divine secret pavilion. The person who owes you money, we know his identity, but we don't want to make it public. The person said softly, That's your father, Wancheng. When this was said, Jiang Chun's heart skipped a beat. If this matter was spread out, not to mention Wancheng, even Kunlun Celestial Mountain would be in trouble. Our eternal riverbank is in the business of money. As long as you can pay off this sum of money, we won't say a word about your father's matter. Otherwise, if we lose money, we will naturally take revenge. The person said. At this moment, Jiang Chun didn't even think about it. He immediately nodded and said, Give me some time to prepare. When the time comes, I will send the money to the eternal riverbank. That's good. The person said, "My name is Zhang Jiao. You can come to the Eternal River Bank in the northern region and use my name." Then, Zhang Jiao didn't ask any more questions or say anything. He didn't even need Jiang Chun to sign the contract and left. Jiang Chun walked back with a dark face. He glanced at Bai Xiaoyun and asked, "Does the Divine Secret Pavilion have money?" When these words came out, Bai Xiaoyun's face turned ugly. "No money. It can be said that we are penniless." Bai Xiaoyun said, "Master has to raise so many immortal kings. The money in the Divine Secret Pavilion has been used up. Now we have to rely on ourselves." Jiang Chun was speechless. He thought to himself, "What should I do now? Where can I get so much money?" If he didn't return the money, the matter of Wan Cheng would be exposed. "I can only—" Jiang Chun sighed and looked at the people blocking the entrance of Kunlun, Celestial Mountain. His face was cold as he said angrily, "All of you, get lost. I don't have money, but I do have a life. If you have the ability, come and take it." When these words came out, the people around didn't dare to say anything. After all, Jiang Chun had immortal kings following him. Moreover, this was outside the Kunlun Celestial Mountain. If something happened to Jiang Chun here, would the Kunlun Celestial Mountain just sit back and watch? Immediately, everyone retreated, their faces filled with grief and indignation. Jiang Chun led by Xiaoyan and the others into Kunlun Celestial Mountain and went directly to the 9th mountain. As soon as they arrived at the top of the 9th mountain, Xin Yu appeared in front of Jiang Chun, as if she had already known that Jiang Chun had returned. "You dare to come back?" Xin Yu's face darkened and said, "When you left, you robbed the 9th mountain. Now that you're back, aren't you afraid of being beaten to death?" "I missed you guys, so I came to see you guys," Jiang Chun said with a smile. Then he rubbed his hands and asked weakly, "Can I borrow some money?" Xin Yu was stunned. She stared at Jiang Chun in a daze, thinking that this guy still had the face to ask. The robbery of Kunlun Celestial Mountain was not even over yet, and now he wanted to borrow money. "You, is there something wrong with your brain?" Xin Yu said unhappily. "I really need it." Jiang Chun sighed, thought for a while, and said, "Forget it, I'll go look for the first mountain's leader." After saying that, he ignored Xin Yu and hurried to the first mountain. My father got into trouble outside and owes a sum of money. I need to pay it back," Jiang Chun said directly. What was the relationship between the first mountain's leader and Wan Cheng? Naturally, he would help Wan Cheng. However, when Jiang Chun said the astronomical amount, the first mountain's leader went silent for a while. Then, he pointed at the gate of the first mountain and said, "Go on your own." Jiang Chun laughed bitterly, but still asked, "My father is your man. Are you really not going to help him? If you don't help him, his secret might be exposed." "Let him die outside," the first mountain's leader said unhappily. "You're always a troublemaker." Then, the first mountain's leader hit Jiang Chun with his palm and pushed him out of the first mountain. Chapter 15:24. Such an astronomical number, Kunlun Immortal Mountain could naturally afford it. However, Kunlun Immortal Mountain also had to look at the person. Wan Cheng had always been such a scammer. So what if he did not return it? The first mountain lord firmly believed that even if he did not return this sum of money, Wan Cheng would still be able to live well. However, Jiang Chun was anxious. If he did not return this sum of money, Wan Cheng's matter would be exposed. Although Wan Cheng was a scammer, he was still his own father. "I lack money." Jiang Chun looked at Bai Xiaoyan and asked, "Is there any way?" "Lack money? Then go and earn money," Bai Xiaoyan said. However, Bai Xiaoyan did not know how to earn money. After all, in the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, they were all raised by the White Robe Immortal King. They were the type that ate and drank for free all day. Asking him to think of a way to earn money. What could he think of? "Why don't we borrow from the sects in the overseas Immortal Mountains?" Jiang Chun asked. When these words came out, Bai Xiaoyan directly shook her head. The sects in the overseas Immortal Mountains are all poor. Bai Xiaoyan smiled bitterly and said, "The overseas Immortal Mountains are not rich in the first place. Where would so much money come from? Besides, will you return it after borrowing it? You are now the alliance leader. Even if you don't return it, they won't dare to say anything. So, if you ask them to lend it to you, they will definitely not lend it to you. When Jiang Chen heard this, he could not help but smile bitterly. This time, his father was really going to be in trouble. If this matter was exposed, the three great immortal kings would take action. There was probably no one in this world who could save Wan Cheng. Is there really no way? Jiang Chen sighed and said, "You could try your luck and go to Immortal Ancient City to take a look. There are many treasures there, and you can pick up leftovers. If you can really pick up a few, it might be enough." Bai Xiaoyan said. Immortal Ancient City had always been a very special ancient city. The creatures there would not expose their identities. One could meet all kinds of people there. Perhaps the person you are talking to is an elder of a sect, or even a sect master. In an Immortal Ancient City, the most famous thing was to trade ancient treasures. Some of those treasures were fake, and some were real. Of course, there were also some that he couldn't tell what they were. If he could pick up a treasure, Jiang Chen might have enough money. However, if he made a mistake, then the loss would be huge. There's nothing we can do. We can only take a look inside Immortal Ancient City, Jiang Chen said with a sigh, inwardly wondering how he ended up running into this type of father. After that, Jiang Chen did not bid farewell to the people of Kunlun Immortal Mountain and flew towards Immortal Ancient Doubt City with Bai Xiaoyan. Immortal Ancient Doubt City was also in the northern region, but it was extremely close to the eastern region. Thus, in Immortal Ancient Doubt City, one would often encounter people from the eastern region. Of course, they could also encounter creatures from other regions. Here, everything had to be done in a low-key manner to avoid conflicts with others. After all, you might end up provoking a supreme existence here. Half a day later, Jiang Chen finally arrived at Immortal Ancient Doubt City under Bai Xiaoyan's guidance. Immortal Ancient Doubt City wasn't large, an ancient city. There was only a single main street that led to the north and south gates. Inside the ancient city, there weren't many buildings, only stalls lined on both sides of the road. Jiang Chen entered from the south gate. Before entering the city, he first disguised himself and concealed his aura. This was what Bai Xiaoyan had told him. After all, the things being traded here could be supreme treasures, or they could be scamming others. Thus, no one was willing to reveal their identity in Immortal Ancient Doubt City to avoid attracting unnecessary trouble. At this moment, after Jiang Chen entered from the south gate, he saw that the inside was bustling with activity, with all kinds of hawking sounds. At the stall closest to Jiang Chen, a man with a scar on his face was currently shouting, pointing at several ancient items on his stall, and saying, "Ancient Era's Heaven Mixing Silk, 8 trigrams copper cauldron. Now selling cheap." On the other side, someone was currently holding a piece of unpolished black jade, also shouting loudly, claiming that this was the essence condensed from the Immortal Emperor's Tao comprehension. If it really is something left behind by an Immortal Emperor, it's probably worth a lot, right? Jiang Chen muttered. Don't listen to his nonsense. If it really is something left behind by an Immortal Emperor, would he dare to sell it? It would have long been snatched by others. Bai Xiaoyan said snappily, that piece of unpolished jade should also be considered a treasure, but it's not as exaggerated as he says. This place really is scamming people openly, Jiang Chen said softly, inwardly thinking that this place was simply his heaven. Scamming people here was completely the type that was willing to be beaten and willing to be beaten. Is there any good stuff in this Immortal Ancient Doubt City? Jiang Chen asked. Of course there are good things, but if you want to pick up scraps, it'll have to depend on your own eyes, Bai Xiaoyan said. In the past, someone picked up a weapon used by an Immortal Emperor here. Although it wasn't an Emperor weapon, it was still extraordinary, with a portion of the Immortal Emperor's laws inside. There was also someone who bought a stalk of grass here. In the end, when it grew up, actually became a stalk of immortal medicine. Hearing these words, Jiang Chen's heart couldn't help but become a bit restless. If he could pick up these treasures, he wouldn't have to worry about not being able to pay off that astronomical debt. Next, Jiang Chen slowly walked forward. Wherever he passed, his eyes shone brightly, constantly sizing up the treasures on the roadside stalls. It had to be said that there were truly many good things in this immortal ancient doubt city, but the prices were too high. With Jiang Qin's current wealth, he couldn't afford them at all. Fellow Taoist, come and take a look at this treasure. This is a good treasure. Just as Jiang Qin passed by a stall, an old man hurriedly shouted and picked up a simple teapot, saying, "Take a look." "Well, what kind of treasure is this?" Jiang Qin asked. When these words came out, the old man laughed awkwardly and said, "I'm not sure. I found it in an ancient ruin." "Then what use does it have?" Jiang Qin continued to ask, "This other than being able to drink water." The old man said, then shook his head and said seriously, "This was found in an ancient ruin of an immortal king. Although I don't know what use it has, it is definitely extraordinary. Today, I see that we are fated to meet. If you like it, I'll sell this teapot to you for 8,000 immortal jades." Jiang Qin rolled his eyes, thinking, "Don't tell me you just casually brought an old teapot to scam me? This should have been used by an immortal king." Just as Jiang Qin was about to leave, Bai Xiaoyan said with a strange expression, "It seems to have been used by Master, but it can't be this old, right?" Jiang Qin was a bit dumbfounded when he heard this. A teapot used by a white-robed immortal king was actually sold here? Can something used by Master be valuable? Isn't it just an ordinary teapot? Jiang Qin asked. Perhaps in this teapot, there really are some insights and essence of cultivation left by Master. Bai Xiaoyan said, "If it has been used for a long time with Master's cultivation, this teapot will naturally be nurtured for a long time, and there will definitely be some Tao rhythm. For some cultivators, it is indeed a treasure and can be sold for a lot of money." Chapter 15:25. True celestial kings were extraordinary. Everything they used would be stained with their Tao fruit and Tao power. If someone with a low cultivation could obtain a personal item used by a celestial king, it would make their cultivation very smooth in the early stages. Jiang Qin did not expect that an item used by a celestial king would be so valuable. Suddenly, a bold idea appeared in Jiang Qin's mind. Let's take a look first. At this moment, Jiang Qin looked at the teapot and did not want to buy it. Although the teapot's price was not high, and he could make a profit after selling it, to Jiang Qin, a few thousand was just a drop in the bucket. This is the feather of an ancient god, the 10,000-mile cloud rock. With this feather, you can forge the legendary 10,000 feather fan. After a few breaths, Jiang Qin came to a stall. A man with a veil over his face was holding a damaged feather and hawking it. It was strange. The stall owners in other places were holding things that looked good, but this damaged feather was a little ugly in comparison. However, this place was full of people. 10,000-mile cloud rock? What is that? Jiang Qin asked. An ancient god, the king of all birds. Bai Xiaoyan explained. Legend has it that the 10,000 feather fan needs to be forged with the feather of a 10,000-mile cloud rock. 10,000 feather fan? Is it the legendary divine weapon that can command all the birds in the world? Jiang Qin asked. Yes. Bai Xiaoyan nodded, but then shook her head and said, to forge the 10,000 feather fan, not only do you need the feather of a 10,000-mile cloud rock, you also need the feathers of various ancient spiritual birds. Just the feather of a 10,000-mile cloud rock is not enough. Oh, if you can't forge it, then what do you need the feather of a 10,000-mile cloud rock for? Jiang Qin said unhappily. The feather of a 10,000-mile cloud rock was indeed extraordinary, but it needed to be matched with other feathers. Just this kind of feather was not worth much. However, there were many people around here, and they did not say anything. They all looked at the feather of the 10,000-mile cloud rock, as if they saw something extraordinary. Jiang Qin was also curious. He stood there, wanting to see what was going on. 1,000,000 immortal jades. I want this 10,000-ly cloud rock's feather. After a dozen breaths of time, a young man spoke up. Moreover, the first thing he said was 1,000,000. This left Jiang Qin a little stunned. 1,000,000 was not a small sum. Although the feathers of the 10,000 miles cloud rock were precious, they were not worth the price. Unless you can gather all the other feathers, this feather is useless. However, what Jiang Qin didn't expect was that as soon as the young man finished speaking, someone else increased the price. 3 million? 3 million? This doesn't seem right, right? Jiang Chen muttered. He glanced at Bai Xiaoyan and asked, "Do you see any problems? This feather seems a little strange." Bai Xiaoyan frowned. Profound light flashed in her eyes as she stared at the 10,000-mile Cloud Rock's feather. A few breaths later, her expression changed greatly as she said, "This feather is the 10,000-mile Cloud Rock's true feather." True feather? Jiang Chen's expression changed. He also knew what true feather meant. True feather meant where the Tao fruit of the 10,000-mile Cloud Rock was located. This feather might not be able to refine the 10,000 feather fan, but it definitely contained the inheritance of the 10,000-mile Cloud Rock. Although this inheritance might not be complete, as long as it was the inheritance of the 10,000-mile Cloud Rock, its value would be extraordinary. This was not surprising. There were so many people here. In fact, all of them had seen the difference in this feather. 10 million, 50 million, 100 million. At this moment, everyone present could not wait any longer. Everyone knew very well that this was the 10,000-mile Cloud Rock's true feather. Then, if they wanted to obtain the 10,000-mile Cloud Rock, they would have to bid. The seller chuckled happily, as if he had already expected this situation. You say, if he's selling the 10,000-mile Cloud Rock's true feather, he won't use it himself? Jiang Chen muttered. Someone who can sell this kind of thing must have a shocking identity. Bai Xiaoyan explained. Maybe he doesn't care about this true feather at all. Say, if I had the money, I would also want to buy it. Jiang Chen sighed. At this moment, although Jiang Chen could not afford it, he did not leave. He wanted to see who would be the one to buy this true feather in the end. After half an incense stick's time, the voices in the place quieted down. This was because the price of this true feather had risen to over 800 million. 800 million immortal jade. This was not something that ordinary people could afford. Even a top sec would find it difficult to take out 800 million immortal jade all at once. The people here are not ordinary people. Jiang Chen sighed with emotion. In the end, a man wearing a black silk robe bought it for 800 million immortal jade. Jiang Chen smiled. He didn't say anything. He just stood up and walked forward. Except when passing by that man's side, Jiang Chen flicked a finger. A wisp of chaos energy dripped onto this man's body. This action was stealthy. Even the Bai Xiaoyan, who was close by, did not discover it. This place is really my heaven, Jiang Chen thought in his heart. As for being crude, you have got to be kidding. To be able to be crude here, do you think that others are blind? Jiang Chen thought it through very clearly. Rather than being crude, why not return to his old profession? Save effort. Hey! This customer, this place isn't where you can come. Hurry up and leave. My place is an exclusive seat. After over a dozen breaths, Jiang Chen came in front of another stall. It was just that there were very few people around this stall. Only 2 people stood in front of the stall. Jiang Chen walked up to take a look. Before he could take a closer look, he heard the stall owner chasing him away. Stall owner, we're all stall owners. Why can't I stand here and look at your things? Jiang Chen asked curiously. I don't know where this country bumpkin came from. This stall is called a real stall. Those who buy things here have to use their real identities. Furthermore, they have to have sufficient status and identity. Otherwise, you don't even have the right to look at the things here. A young man beside him said in a strange tone. He then reported his name. East Region Sky Gem Mountain Young Master, Kuyu. Just as he finished speaking, another young man also said arrogantly, North Region Wanjun Immortal King's Sword Disciple Mystic 4. Oh! Jiang Chen nodded indifferently. Then, he looked at Mystic 4 with a strange expression and asked, What's your relationship with Mystic 3? Xianjun Immortal King has 4 sword disciples. Mystic 3 is my senior brother. Mystic 4 raised his eyebrows and asked why. I'm fine. Jiang Chen shook his head. Then he looked towards the stall owner and asked, Even a Taoist apprentice with a sword can stand here. He has Xianjun Immortal King behind him. What do you think? The stall owner said with annoyance. Then he waved his hand impatiently and said, Either show your identity or leave. Jiang Chun could not stand this humiliation. He looked at Bai Xiaoyan and nodded. Chapter 15:26. Reveal his identity? How could Jiang Chun be afraid of him? Although this was a mortal Gai city, and many people didn't want to expose their identities, it didn't matter to Jiang Chun at the moment. After all, he had already made up his mind. Besides, so what if he revealed his identity now? At most, he could hide his identity before he left. It was not a big deal. He is the young master of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect, Jiang Chun. At this moment, Bai Xiaoyan opened her mouth. After a few light coughs, she spoke her first sentence. Everyone was stunned. They did not expect the young man in front of them to be the famous Jiang Chun. However, what was this identity to them? The 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect had declined, and even the 10,000 mounts were suppressed in the Kunlun Immortal Mountain. A mere young master was nothing. He is a disciple of the Kunlun Immortal Mountain's 9th mountain, Bai Xiaoyan continued. Just this identity? He has no right to stand here. Get out of here! I thought he was some big shot. I didn't expect him to be just a bastard who relied on 1,000 years and the promise of 2 realms to survive. Mystic 4 and the young master of Heavenly Gem Mountain, Kuyu, looked at him with contempt. Even if Jiang Chun was the successor of the 9th mountain, they were not afraid of anything. Looks like I have to reveal my true identity, Jiang Chun said softly and looked at Bai Xiaoyan, indicating that she could continue. Jiang Chun was the pavilion leader of the Divine Secret Pavilion and the alliance leader of the Overseas Immortal Mountain. If he lost face, the Divine Secret Pavilion would lose face too. Even the Overseas Immortal Mountain would lose face. Bai Xiaoyan did not want to lose face for the Divine Secret Pavilion. At this moment, Bai Xiaoyan's expression became serious, and she revealed her true appearance. However, she didn't mention Jiang Chen's identity. Instead, she introduced herself first. I'm from the Heavenly Mystery Pavilion, and the pavilion's former master is my father. My name is Bai Xiaoyan, and I'm a true immortal king. The moment these words were spoken, Mystic 4 and Ku Yu's expressions changed. With Bai Xiaoyan's status, she was actually able to stand here. In fact, Bai Xiaoyan's status was only higher than theirs, not lower than theirs. No, Bai Xiaoyan is by Jiang Chen's side. Could it be? That's impossible, right? Many of them reacted quickly and looked at the stall owner, Mystic 4, and the rest with mocking looks on their faces. He, Jiang Chun, is now the pavilion master of the Heavenly Secret Pavilion. Bai Xiaoyan paused for a moment, then asked, is this status enough? What? The pavilion lord of the secret pavilion? It's a... Jiang Chun. At this moment, not to mention Mystic 4 and the rest, even the bystanders who were watching the show exclaimed in shock. Some people had indeed guessed that Jiang Chun was related to the Pavilion of Heavenly Secrets, but they had never imagined that he was the current pavilion master of the Pavilion of Heavenly Secrets. This was like a sudden clap of thunder, shaking everyone's heads until they were dizzy, especially Mystic 4, whose face was ashen. He knew the relationship between the 3 celestial kings and Jiang Chun. Now that Jiang Chun had become the pavilion master of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, even if the 3 celestial kings disregarded the agreement between the 2 realms, it would be difficult for them to deal with Jiang Chun. Are these identities enough? If not, I still have other identities. Jiang Chun looked at the stall owner mockingly. Then he looked at Mystic 4 and raised his eyebrows. Mystic 3 died in my hands. As for you, Mystic 4, I don't mind sending you down to meet him. No fighting is allowed in Immortal Ancient City. Mystic 4 panicked. He was not as strong as Mystic 3. If Jiang Chun wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as flipping his hand. My Heavenly Secret Mountain is located in the East region, so I don't know how powerful the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion is. I only know that everyone in the world knows the strength of my Heavenly Secret Mountain. You're arrogant and think that you have status, but my Heavenly Secret Mountain's young master doesn't believe you. At that moment, Kuyu actually managed to muster up the courage to say those words. Moreover, he even told the stall owner that if Jiang Chun was here, he would leave. Between him and Jiang Chun, only one of them could stay here. This made the stall owner very difficult. For a moment he stammered, not knowing what to say. After all, although the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion was famous, it was too mysterious in the eyes of the world. Many people did not know the foundation of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. But Heavenly Secret Mountain was different. Everyone knew that Heavenly Secret Mountain's foundation was very strong. They could establish themselves in the East region without relying on the three celestial kings. Even in the entire East region, if Heavenly Secret Mountain said something, the East region would be shaken. I don't dare to offend Heavenly Secret Mountain. Let the two of them fight each other, the stall owner thought to himself. He narrowed his eyes and did not say a word. At this moment, Bai Xiaoyan was so angry that she laughed. She pointed at Jiang Chun and said, "He has another identity. I'm afraid that your Heavenly Secret Mountain's young master can't compare to him." "Oh, tell me about it. It's not like my Heavenly Secret Mountain hasn't seen the world. In this world, other than the three celestial kings, who else has my Heavenly Secret Mountain been afraid of?" Kuyu raised his eyebrows. "Is the alliance leader of the overseas immortal mountains," Bai Xiaoyan said softly. She did not describe much. With just this sentence, it made the surroundings quiet down. The overseas immortal mountains rarely came to the mainland and would not interfere with the matters of the mainland. Very few people knew about the foundation of the overseas immortal mountains, but they also knew that the overseas immortal mountains were very strong and united. Offending one of the overseas immortal mountains was equivalent to offending the entire overseas immortal mountains. However, the world had never heard of an alliance leader from the overseas immortal mountains. Are you for real? The overseas immortal mountains are united to the outside world, but there are also internal disputes. I've never heard of an alliance leader. The overseas immortal mountains have formed an alliance? Someone whispered. The person who spoke had a very high status. Otherwise, they would not be qualified to discuss this matter. It's up to you to believe it or not. If you don't believe it, you can go to the overseas immortal mountains and ask, Bai Xiaoyan said. At this moment, Jiang Chen stepped out and came to the middle of the stall. He asked with a smile, "Now, am I qualified to stand here?" "Yes, yes, yes." The stall owner wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. This time a big shot really came. Although his cultivation wasn't high, his identity was simply shocking. What about him? Is he qualified to stand side by side with me? Jiang Chun pointed at Ku Yu, who had an ugly expression, and said jokingly, "He said before that only one of us can stand here." "You!" Ku Yu's expression was gloomy. However, after thinking carefully, he also understood that with his identity as a young master, he was indeed not qualified to challenge Jiang Chun. Ku Yu was also tactful. He took a step back and was about to leave. However, Jiang Chun shook his head and said, "I'm not interested in the things in the stall. If you want to take a look, you can have a look. I'm leaving." After saying that, Jiang Chun smiled and took a few steps back. He stood 3 meters away from the stall. This made the crowd confused. What was Jiang Chun doing? He revealed his identity, but did not look at the stall owner's goods. "Kid, you said it yourself. Perhaps you don't know what this stall is selling today. Don't regret it," Ku Yu said coldly. He returned to the front of the stall and said loudly, "I, Ku Yu, want the Immortal Emperor's handwritten letter." Chapter 15:27. The Immortal Emperor's letter was something left behind by the Immortal Emperor when he was cultivating. In layman's terms, it was a notebook. The letter recorded the Immortal Emperor's comprehension of the Great Tao. It was a type of Tao fruit and also a type of inheritance. Ordinary people could not obtain such a thing. Even the descendants of the Immortal Emperor might not have such a thing. In the history of the immortal world, the Immortal Emperor's letter did not appear many times. However, every time it appeared, it would cause a storm, and even a storm of blood. And now, no one would have thought that the Immortal Emperor's letter would be for sale in an inconspicuous stall in a mortal ancient city. "This Immortal Emperor's letter shouldn't be the only copy, right?" someone asked. The stall owner laughed and said, "Of course it's not the only copy. I've made a few copies, and I'll sell one every once in a while. What? Could it be? The person who sold the immortal emperor's letter in the previous era was also you? Someone exclaimed. That's right. The stall owner smiled and said, Everyone, I'll sell one copy every era. It's the same one, and those who are fated will get it. Then he raised the immortal emperor's letter and said, If no one is willing to reveal their identity, then the competitors for the immortal emperor's letter today will be Mystic 4 and Ku Yu. Although the immortal emperor's letter was precious and could be said to be priceless, the stall owner's rules were very strange. He insisted that people reveal their identity before they were qualified to buy his things. In an immortal ancient city, the biggest taboo was to reveal one's identity. Without absolute strength and background, no one would easily reveal their identity, even if it was the immortal emperor's letter. Mystic 4 is immortal King Xian Jun's sword orthodoxy. He has immortal King Xian Jun behind him, so he has no fear of revealing his identity. Someone said, as for Heavenly Gem Mountain's Ku Yu, it's said that Heavenly Gem Mountain now controls half of the eastern region, and their background is extremely strong. It's understandable that their young master revealed his identity. At this moment, many people were standing in the distance. Although they were all envious of the immortal emperor's letter, no one was willing to reveal their identity. Just like that, this priceless immortal emperor's letter was only contested by Mystic 4 and Ku Yu. Ku Yu, the immortal emperor's letter, is extraordinary. I want to bring it back to the immortal king, Mystic 4 said in a low voice. He wanted to use Xian Jun's name to intimidate you. However, Ku Yu simply ignored him. One must know that Heavenly Gem Mountain was now able to control half of the eastern region by relying on its own strength and not any of the three immortal kings. Tianling Mountain had the confidence. They were not afraid of the three immortal kings. This letter belongs to the highest bidder. Ku Yu said, if you can afford it, I will naturally concede. Otherwise, I'll take the immortal emperor's letter with me. After saying that, Ku Yu waved his hand. Immediately, a few people appeared in the distance, and Celestial King Qi exploded. Clearly, these were all powerhouses of Tianling Mountain. Don't fail to appreciate my kindness. I must take this immortal emperor's letter with me. Mystic 4 said coldly. Regarding this, Ku Yu could not be bothered to argue with Mystic 4. He opened his mouth and said, Stall owner, name a price. You can open it yourselves, the stall owner said with a smile. Currently, there are only 2 competitors. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he saw a masked man walk over. When he passed by Jiang Chun, his footsteps paused slightly, but he did not say anything and continued to walk forward. Jiang Chun frowned. He felt a different aura from this masked man. This aura was very familiar, as if it came from his bloodline. It can't be. Jiang Chun suddenly reacted and widened his eyes in disbelief. At this moment, the masked man had already arrived in front of the stall and threw out a token. He said, VIP of Ganji's Bank. Chow has money. Ganji's Bank? VIP? The stall owner was stunned for a moment, then nodded and said, You can bid. This made many people depressed. After all, this stall owner did not suspect the identity of this masked man. Just a token was enough? Of course, there were also people who knew what was going on. Ganji's Bank controlled half of the wealth of the immortal world. Anyone who could become a VIP of Ganji's Bank had an extraordinary identity. Moreover, with this token from Ganji's Bank, it was enough to not expose one's identity at all. Chow has money. How damn rich are you? Jiang Chun rolled his eyes and cursed in his heart. At this moment, Jiang Chun naturally guessed the identity of this man. Who else could it be other than his father, who cheated his son? However, Jiang Chun did not expect that Wan Chang would actually come here, owe so much money to Ganji's Bank, and even become a VIP of Ganji's Bank. No matter how much you bid, I will bid too. 3 billion. At this moment, Wan Cheng took out the Ganji's Bank's promissory note and said, This promissory note can be exchanged for immortal jade at any Ganji's Bank. This, too, 3 billion? Exclamations could be heard all around. Even the hidden big shots were a little dumbfounded. What did 3 billion mean? That was a standard that many top forces could not reach. Even the sex of the three immortal kings might not be able to fork out 3 billion. At this moment, Kuyu was a little confused. This time, he came fully prepared and had nearly 1 billion immortal jade on him. But now, facing the 3 billion immortal jade that Wan Cheng threw out, he did not even have the strength to speak. Sir, it's not appropriate to snatch things from my heavenly gem mountain, right? Kuyu said coldly. What is heavenly gem mountain? If you have the ability, come find trouble with Ganges Bank. Otherwise, shut up. Wan Cheng was very arrogant and said, Remember my name? Chow has money. Then, he looked at the stall owner and asked, Can you give me this immortal emperor's letter? Of course. The stall owner was not a fool. He knew that no one could afford this price, so he immediately handed the immortal emperor's letter to Wan Cheng. Then, Wan Cheng waved his hand and left. Jiang Chun was stunned, but he could understand why Wan Cheng owed so much money to Ganges Bank. It turned out that he already knew that Immortal Gai City was going to sell the immortal emperor's letter, and he came for it. But, UF asterisk king own money, and you want me, your son, to pay it back? Chase after him. Once we leave Immortal Gai City, we'll rob him. At this moment, the people brought by Mystic 4 and Kuyu all walked up and followed behind Wan Cheng. They could not fight in Immortal Gai City, but outside, however, when they arrived outside Immortal Gai City, they found that Wan Cheng was fighting with another person. Jiang Chen also followed. When he saw the person fighting with Wan Cheng, Jiang Chen's face darkened. Wasn't that person the person Jiang Chen used the chaotic energy to mark his body? Immeasurable old father. You won't even let go of the prey I value. Jiang Chen cursed, but he could not snatch things from his father, so he could only curse a few times. Chapter 1528. Pavilion Master, look over there. There are two people fighting. Bai Xiaoyan naturally saw what Jiang Chen saw. He pointed at the two people fighting not far away and said to Jiang Chen, Big senior brother, didn't I tell you to call me junior brother in the future? Jiang Chen said helplessly. On one hand, it was because Bai Xiaoyan had always treated him like a pavilion master, which made him feel a little awkward. On the other hand, it was because of the situation in front of him. The 10,000-mile Cloud Peng's true feather that he had set his eyes on had become his father's target. Should he snatch it or not? If he wanted to snatch it, he couldn't snatch it from his father's hands. But if he didn't snatch it, this true feather that could be sold for 1 billion would no longer belong to him. Thinking about the 3 billion that his father owed from the Ganges Bank, Jiang Chun felt a headache coming on. He couldn't wait to cut off all ties with Wan Cheng. Little junior brother, that person seems to be the one who just bought the true feather for 800 million, and the other person is Chao Yuqian from the Ganges Bank. Could it be that they have some grudge and need to settle it here? Bai Xiaoyan didn't understand the situation and scratched his head in confusion. Although he was an immortal king, he spent most of his time in the Heaven's Secrets Pavilion. He didn't know much about the outside world. Maybe. Hearing his words, Jiang Qin nodded helplessly. Needless to say, his father must have set his eyes on the true feather and wanted to snatch it. Seeing his father's elegant demeanor, Jiang Qin whispered to Bai Xiaoyan, Big senior brother, look at the two hills over there. It's Mystic 4 and that heavenly gem mountain's young Master Kuyu. They also want to make a move on the immortal emperor's letter and the true feather. Bai Xiaoyan smiled as he looked in the direction Jiang Qin was pointing. The most comfortable time in one's life was watching a show. What's more, it wasn't just a normal bustle. The black-robed man who was able to bid 800 million, Chao Yuqian of the Eternal River Bank, Xian Jun subordinate, Mystic 4, and Kuyu, the young lord of the Heavenly Gem Mountain. Each of them was not an ordinary person in this world, and if these four people were to fight, it was likely that all four forces would be implicated. They might even force the celestial kings of the various forces to make a move. Just as Bai Xiaoyan was about to find a comfortable place to sit down and watch the fun, Jiang Qin's words made him stunned. Eldest apprentice brother, when they are fighting, you should cooperate with me to get the immortal emperor's letter and the true feather. With these two treasures, we should be able to get more than half of the 3 billion that we owe the Ganges villa, Jiang Chen said to Bai Xiaoyan, clenching his fists. His eyes were burning with passion. You want to snatch something from the hands of these 4 people? Bai Xiaoyan was somewhat astonished. That's right. Jiang Chen nodded vigorously. Now that he was burdened with his father's huge debt, he couldn't just watch as his father slipped away with the treasures right in front of his eyes. All right, I'll cooperate with you. Bai Xiaoyan knew what Jiang Chen was thinking and directly nodded in agreement. The moment he agreed, the relaxed expression on his face was instantly replaced by a serious one. Even though he had already reached the Celestial King realm, the 4 people in front of him were not easy to deal with. If he wanted to take the treasures from them, it wouldn't be so easy. While he was talking to Jiang Chen, Wan Cheng and the black-robed man were still worrying about their opponents. Although Wan Cheng's strength was obviously higher, to be able to come here alone and take out 800 million to buy the true feather, he was definitely not an ordinary person. Do it! At this time, a sharp voice rang out. Mystic Four, who had been hiding at the side, instantly rushed out after confirming that Wan Cheng and the black-robed man were exhausted. The long sword in his hand was imbued with dense sword chi. In the instant he rushed out, the sword chi suddenly increased, enveloping his entire body and piercing out like a sharp sword. Mystic Four's speed was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, he was already in front of Wan Cheng. Seeing this scene, Jiang Chen could not help but shake his head. This Mystic Four was indeed the direct disciple of Xianjun. However, his father truly possessed the strength of a celestial king. Even if Xianjun were to come here personally, it would not be an easy task to deal with his father, let alone a mere disciple of his. The truth was just as Jiang Chen had said. As Mystic Four rushed forward, Wan Cheng was momentarily distracted. Without any fancy moves, he sent out a palm strike towards him. This palm looked simple and unadorned, incomparably ordinary, but it concealed an extremely heavy cultivation base. Even if a true immortal king stood here, he wouldn't dare to underestimate it. Once he was struck, he would definitely end up with injuries. However, with Mystic Four's cultivation, it was impossible for him to determine Wan Cheng's true strength. He thought that this person had already exhausted all his strength and did not have any moves to deal with him. Pung! A loud sound rang out. The sword that Mystic Four had transformed into collided heavily with Wan Cheng's palm strike. As the sound rang out, Mystic Four was sent flying like a bird that had been hit by a huge rock. Plop! Mystic Four's body crashed to the ground a dozen meters away, sending a cloud of dust into the air. How could this be? How could I be defeated so easily? Mystic Four clutched his chest as blood slowly flowed out of the corner of his mouth. He had completely lost in the collision with Wan Cheng just now. The powerful qi had even invaded his body, causing irreversible damage to his internal organs and meridians. The move he had used just now was the sword manipulation that Xianjun had personally taught him, not to mention those of the same cultivation level. Even if he was facing an immortal king, he would still have the strength to fight. However, just now, he had used all the strength in his body to kill this person from the eternal riverbank, but he had been severely injured by a casual palm strike. What a strong strength! Bai Xiaoyan frowned as she looked at the scene in front of her. This person's strength was probably much higher than her, and the black-robed man's cultivation was definitely not to be underestimated. It would be extremely difficult to snatch the treasure away from him. Senior brother, you're not afraid, are you? Compared to Bai Xiaoyan's shock, Jiang Chen was extremely calm. He knew his father's strength better than anyone else. Dealing with a person like Mystic Four was as easy as swatting an ant. Not killing him with a single strike was already considered merciful. Cough, cough. What are you talking about? Bai Xiaoyan coughed awkwardly as her thoughts were seen through by Jiang Chen. You're now the pavilion lord of our Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, so I naturally have to obey your orders. Later, we'll find an opportunity to snatch the treasure away and escape immediately. There's no rush. Let's wait and see. Jiang Chen waved his hand casually. On the other side, after heavily injuring Mystic Four with a single strike, Wan Cheng's lips curled into a cold smile. What kind of random person dares to show off in front of me? This Wan Chung palm of mine is enough too. As if realizing that he had exposed himself, Wan Chung quickly shut his mouth. Chapter 1529. What are you talking about? The man in black frowned at Wan Chung. It's nothing, little friend. I advise you to obediently hand over the true feather in your hand. You may not be my opponent with your strength. Don't end up with nothing. Wan Chung waved his hand and revealed a brilliant smile. Despicable. The man in black spat. He was prepared to be robbed if he dared to act alone here. With his quasi-immortal king cultivation, almost no one could take anything from him. But he never expected that the person who wanted to take the true feather from him was a real immortal king. A dignified immortal king. He actually dared to do such a sneaky thing. He even dared to shamelessly ask him to hand it over. The man in black had lived for decades, but he'd never seen such a shameless person. You can't say that. Wan Chung waved his hand, looking righteous. I'm negotiating with you very amicably. If I were despicable, I would have attacked you long ago. Could it be that a dog attacked me just now? The man in black was speechless. The person in front of him didn't have the temperament of an immortal king at all. Instead, he was more like an unreasonable robber. You dare call me a dog? Wan Chung looked as if his tail had been stepped on. While he was speaking, a majestic immortal chi was brewing in his body. He wanted to end this battle quickly and get rid of the person in front of him. Otherwise, once his true identity was exposed, he was afraid that someone would immediately come here to hunt him down. After all, he was sealed in Kunlun Immortal Mountain. Feeling the terrifying pressure, the man in black looked at Wan Chung solemnly. He knew that this person's strength was definitely above his. If he wasn't careful, he could really be killed here. Whoosh! Almost instantly, a cloud of black fog appeared around the man in black. The man was hidden in the black fog, which was like a barrier. Those outside couldn't sense the situation inside at all. Even the man in black's aura was completely concealed. As the wind blew, the black fog gradually expanded and swallowed Wan Chung in the blink of an eye. Darkness type, seeing this strange scene, Jiang Chen secretly clenched his fists as he recalled what Black God had said in the Black God sect. The darkness attribute was one of the most mysterious attributes in the Great Thousand World. Apart from those who had great luck or entered sects like the Black Deity sect to cultivate, ordinary people would not have the opportunity to come into contact with it. As for those who were able to use the darkness attribute, with the cultivation of a quasi-immortal king, there was practically no one who could suppress them among opponents of the same level. It was even to the extent that with the assistance of some immortal arts or cultivation techniques, it wasn't impossible for them to surpass levels and challenge immortal kings. Although Jiang Chen knew his father's strength, the darkness attribute was too strange. Who knew what would happen? TSK, a battle between an immortal king and a half-immortal king. I didn't expect to see such a scene in this small, immortal ancient city. That half-immortal king has probably already brought out his trump card. I wonder how Eternal Riverbank's Chao Yuqian will deal with this. Bai Xiaoyan propped up her chin and said with great interest. He was naturally happy to see this scene. If this black-clothed man and the Eternal Riverbank's people could fight until both sides were injured, then it would be very easy to snatch the immortal emperor's letter and true feather from their hands. There shouldn't be a problem. Jiang Chen looked at the black fog and said after pondering for a moment. One had to know that no matter how strange and strong the darkness attribute was, the difference in strength was not something that could be made up for by attributes alone. Therefore, Jiang Chen was not too worried. Within the black fog, Wan Chung stood with his hands behind his back. Even though he had already entered the other party's boundary, where all he could see was darkness, and even his perception was sealed, he still did not panic. Instead, he waited for the other party to make a move. I've cultivated this black cloud boundary for less than half a year. Now, I can kill an immortal king to celebrate. Your immortal emperor's letter will also become mine. If I have the chance to become the previous emperor in the future, I will properly thank you. The black-clothed man's voice seemed to come from all directions, making it impossible for Wan Chung to tell where the voice came from. Don't tell me you think you can trap me with such a trashy boundary? Wan Cheng snorted coldly. Little friend, I once advised you to hand over the letter, and I could let you live. Now it seems that you don't cherish it. Don't talk nonsense. Take this. A violent roar sounded. In the thick black fog, a thin needle of darkness attribute swept out and stabbed fiercely toward Wan Cheng's back. As long as this thin needle with darkness attribute energy entered the body, the black-clothed man could control this energy to destroy the other party's meridians and internal organs. Even an immortal king would not be able to withstand such internal injuries. Somewhere, the black-clothed man looked at the situation in front of him and could not help but sneer. Although he was now an immortal king, there was still a certain distance between him and a real immortal king. If he could obtain the immortal emperor's letter and comprehend the truth in it, he would definitely be able to break through to the immortal king level and even have the opportunity to reach out and touch the immortal emperor. Just as he was sneering, the thin needle pierced Wan Cheng's back. I've stopped using such a stupid trick hundreds of years ago. Feeling something strange behind him, Wan Cheng instantly turned around, stretched out his hand, and tightly grasped the thin needle with darkness attribute in his hand. I've got you. With the thin needle in his hand, Wan Cheng closed his eyes and sensed it carefully. Immediately, he determined the black-clothed man's specific location. His whole body shot out like an arrow from a bow, shuttling through the black fog. Dark forbidden wall. Feeling the pressure coming toward him, the black-clothed man had no time to think. He instantly squatted down and pressed his hands on the ground. As soon as his voice fell, a pitch-black stone wall instantly rose from the ground. You have a lot of tricks, but it's a pity that the gap in strength between you and me was too big. Holding the thin needle, Wan Cheng could already sense the black-clothed man's specific location and knew what he was doing. Facing such a wall, he did not hesitate at all. His body mixed with a huge force, he smashed it fiercely. Crash! With a shattering sound, the stone wall was instantly destroyed. The black-clothed man standing behind the stone wall was in a daze when his neck was grabbed by Wan Cheng's hand. As long as he exerted a little force, his life would be taken away. How is this possible? The black-clothed man's eyes widened, and his face revealed a look of deep horror, as if he had encountered something unbelievable and beyond his understanding. With the gap in strength, everything is possible. Wan Cheng smiled faintly. Wrong. Wan Cheng was an immortal monarch, not an immortal king. Chapter 1530. This black fog barrier was the result of his research for more than 10 years. When he mastered it, his strength also climbed to the level of an immortal king. In this half a year, he had fought with many quasi-immortal kings. Once enveloped by the barrier, no matter what kind of attribute the quasi-immortal king was, no matter what kind of immortal technique or cultivation method they had, even if they were the disciples of a true immortal king, they could only be helpless and be slaughtered by him. But now, facing a mere immortal monarch, he thought that as long as he used the barrier, this person would definitely die in his hands. But now, what he couldn't understand was why the black fog barrier, which could even trap a quasi-immortal king, was easily found by an immortal monarch. And all of this had happened in just 3 minutes. Are you very surprised? Wan Cheng looked at the black-clothed man in his hand. What kind of strength do you have? How can a mere immortal monarch see through my barrier and even find my hiding place in the black fog? The black-clothed man stared. Even if he racked his brains, he still couldn't figure out what was going on. You know that I have the strength of an immortal monarch, so why ask? Wan Cheng held his neck with one hand and touched his pocket with the other. He took out the 10,000 miles Cloud Rock's true feather and said indifferently, I'll let you go today. Remember, if you meet me again, take out all the good things. Don't force me to make a move. After saying this, Wan Cheng turned around and walked out of a mortal ancient city. The black-clothed man was sitting on the ground, seriously injured. Mystic Four was killed not far away. Many people who were attracted by the battle were shocked when they saw this scene. Logically speaking, there should be no suspense in the battle between a quasi-immortal king and an immortal monarch. Although there was still a big gap between a quasi-immortal king and an immortal king, The gap between a quasi-immortal king and an immortal monarch was like a chasm. But now, they saw with their own eyes that a quasi-immortal king was seriously injured by an immortal monarch in an extremely short period of time. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, they definitely wouldn't believe it. But what they didn't know was that there were only two reasons why Wan Cheng could get rid of this person. One was that even though this person was a quasi-immortal king, his strength was extremely superficial. It seemed as if he'd accumulated spirit pills and treasures of the heavens and the earth, and he wasn't as steady as Chen Shi at all. The second reason was that Wan Cheng was all too familiar with this kind of method of making moves in the dark. By holding the needle, he could sense the other party's location in reverse. This kind of move was really too old-fashioned. This person was able to defeat the black-clothed man with the strength of a celestial monarch, which is enough to prove that he has extraordinary strength. However, I believe that his physical strength is severely depleted and he can no longer use the celestial arts. If we can kill him now, the celestial emperor's letter and the true feather of the 10,000 miles cloud rock will be ours. Kuyi was still hiding behind the slope. He was not as impulsive as Mystic 4. As he watched Wan Cheng leave, he turned around and whispered to his subordinates. "Yes, young master." They all nodded in agreement. "Move out." Kuyu's eyes gradually turned red. If he could obtain the Celestial Emperor's letter, he would be the future master of Tianlang Mountain. After Kuyu, there were quite a few people who chased out from Immortal Ancient's Doubt City. Looking at Wan Cheng's departing figure, they felt extremely restless. Although the true feather was worth 800 million, it was not worth risking their lives for. However, the Celestial Emperor's letter was a priceless treasure. If a celestial monarch obtained it, he would definitely become an immortal king. If a celestial king obtained it, he would be able to test his strength against an immortal emperor. Even if that did not work out, if they obtained the Celestial Emperor's letter, they could definitely find an immortal king to join them. With the Celestial Emperor's letter in their hands, they would definitely be valued by the other party and become the last disciple of an immortal king. Therefore, this handbook was a necessity for almost everyone. Although they knew that their strength was lacking and were not a match for that celestial monarch, they still had to follow him and take a look. What if there was a chance? "Are we going?" Bai Xiaoyan stretched lazily and asked. "Let's go." "Follow behind them." Zhang Chen nodded and got up to follow behind that group of people. However, his eyes were fixed on his father, who was about to disappear at the end of his line of sight. With his father's celestial monarch cultivation, facing these people was indeed a bit difficult. Zhang Chen originally should have directly brought his father out of here, and then had Bai Xiaoyan appear to snatch the Celestial Emperor's letter and true feather from him. However, after thinking about how he had been scammed by his father, and how he still had a debt of 2.3 billion, Zhang Chen prepared to give his father a punishment. He would let these people act first, and then save his father when it was about time. I say, this small Immortal Ancient's Doubt City is actually filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Celestial monarchs and half-immortal kings are one thing, but Heavenly Gem Mountain's young master clearly has a few immortal kings accompanying him. Obtaining the Celestial Emperor's letter might not be that easy. Bai Xiaoyan put her hands in her pockets and followed behind Zhang Chen as she spoke. "That's right. But the Celestial Emperor's letter and true feather can be sold for at least 3 billion. This way, the Eternal Riverbank's debt can be paid off." Zhang Chen raised his eyebrows and said, "Eldest senior brother, if you don't want to act, please lend me 3 billion to pay off the debt. I will definitely pay you back in the future." "Don't. I'm such a poor person. Let alone 3 billion. I can't even take out 100 million. Bai Xiaoyan waved her hands. 3 billion. Even if he sold himself, he still wouldn't be worth this price. Wan Cheng's footsteps gradually quickened. In Immortal Ancient's Doubt City, he could clearly feel the existence of several celestial kings. If he was targeted by them, he might really lose his life here. However, no matter how fast Wan Cheng was, how could he be faster than the celestial kings of Heavenly Gem Mountain? In the blink of an eye, the three of them had already blocked in front of Wan Cheng. Although they weren't true celestial kings, they were still half immortal kings. With the combined strength of the three of them, even a true celestial king could give it a try. Heavenly Gem Mountain? Wansheng stopped. He knew that under the encirclement of three half-immortal kings, he couldn't escape. After all, even if he lost, he couldn't lose face. You're quite tactful. Being able to deal with half-immortal kings with your cultivation really shocked us. Now, hand over the Celestial Emperor's letter, and I'll allow you to leave with true feather. The person at the front was Ku Jie. He pointed at Wansheng and said, I bought the Celestial Emperor's letter for 3 billion celestial jades. Moreover, no matter how strong your Tianlang Mountain is, you have to give the Eternal River Bank some face, right? Wansheng stared at him, prepared to fight at any time. Don't use the Eternal River Bank to pressure people, Ku Jie shouted. Chapter 1531. Does Tianlang Mountain dare to attack the Ganges Bank? Wansheng clasped the Immortal Emperor's letter tightly in his hands. Facing three immortal kings, he had almost no chance of winning. The only thing he could do was to find the right time to escape. However, with his immortal lord cultivation, it was very difficult to escape from the immortal kings. Chao Yuqian, hand over the Immortal Emperor's letter in your hands. On account of the Ganges Bank, you can leave here. Otherwise, even if you can leave, I will tell Immortal King Xianjun that you killed Mystic 4 and let him deal with you. With the support of the immortal kings in the sect, Kuyu walked directly in front of Wansheng. How despicable! Hearing his words, Wansheng swallowed a mouthful of saliva. If Xianjun knew that Mystic 4 died in his hands, he would probably have a hard time in the future. Have you thought it through? Kuyu clenched his fists. As long as the young master gave the order, he would directly attack the immortal lord in front of him. With his strength, he could kill this person in an instant. I am a VIP of the Ganges Bank. If you dare to attack me, the Ganges Bank will definitely not let you off. Wansheng gritted his teeth. He had been eyeing the Immortal Emperor's letter for a long time, and even borrowed 3 billion immortal jades from the Ganges Bank in the name of his son. If he handed it over just like that, wouldn't he lose so much that he wouldn't even have his underwear left? Don't waste time with him. Seniors, make your move. Kuyu frowned and said when he saw more and more people surrounding them. He didn't want to attract too much attention. Chao Yuqian was right. Even if Tianlang Mountain was the top sect in the East region, there was still a big gap between them and the Ganges Bank. It would be better if they ended the battle quickly today. If the news here spread to the Ganges Bank and the people of Tianlang Mountain dared to attack a VIP of the bank, they would definitely attract trouble. At that time, even the East region might be affected to a certain extent, and Tianlang Mountain would be even more unlucky. But thinking about the Immortal Emperor's letter, Kuyu made up his mind. As soon as he finished his words, Yi Zichen's eyes widened. The three immortal kings of Heavenly Gem Mountain instantly surrounded Wansheng. With every movement, the aura of a quasi-immortal king was vividly displayed. Wansheng was trapped in the middle, facing three immortal kings at the same time. He didn't have any good ideas. As long as the other party wanted to attack, he wouldn't even have a chance to fight back. When the onlookers saw this scene, they all dispelled the idea in their hearts. They came out because they wanted to try their luck and see if they could get the Celestial Emperor's letter. But now that the three celestial kings of Heavenly Gem Mountain attacked at the same time, no one present was a match for them. As for the Immortal Emperor's letter, it naturally belonged to Heavenly Gem Mountain. And if he still dared to blindly fight for it, then he would be courting death. TSK, I never thought that I would be able to see three immortal kings attacking an immortal monarch in my lifetime. This person is really unlucky. As the saying goes, a man's wealth is his own ruin. If this immortal monarch is willing to hand over the Immortal Emperor's letter, he might be able to keep his life. I think it'll be difficult. Just now, outside Immortal Ancient City, this person personally killed Immortal King Xianjun's sword child. Who is Xianjun? He's one of the three great immortal kings. Many people were discussing this matter. To them, they had already completely dispelled the idea of getting the Immortal Emperor's letter. The reason why they still stayed here was to see what kind of strength an immortal king had. After all, most people would never see an immortal king in their entire lives. Eldest senior brother, it's time for you to make a move. Jiang Chun stood not far away. When he saw the people of Heavenly Gem Mountain surrounding his father, he hurriedly whispered to Bai Xiaoyan. Although Wan Cheng was good at deceiving his son, he was still his biological father after all. How could he watch as he was killed? Let's wait for them to deal with that immortal monarch. With my strength, I can still snatch something from the hands of 3 immortal kings, Bai Xiaoyan hurriedly explained. I hope you can save that immortal monarch. Jiang Chun shook his head. Oh, you know him? Bai Xiaoyan glanced sideways. I don't know him. I just don't want to see Heavenly Gem Mountain start a massacre. Jiang Chun didn't know how to explain. He couldn't reveal Wan Cheng's true identity, so he could only be vague. Fortunately, Jiang Chun was the pavilion lord of Heaven's Secrets Pavilion, so Bai Xiaoyan didn't hesitate and chose to follow Jiang Chun's orders. Sigh, looks like I'm going to die here today. Not far away, Wan Cheng tightly held the letter and sighed with his eyes closed. He didn't expect so many immortal kings to appear in this small, immortal ancient city. If he didn't have any thoughts about Jinyu, he might have already left. However, the only thing he could do now was to raise his head and wait for death. Seeing that Wan Cheng had given up on resisting, Ku Jie sneered. He raised his hand, and a gust of wind gathered in his palm, creating a sharp, ear-piercing sound. A moment later, this gust of wind was gently pushed out by him. An immortal monarch had no chance of escaping from their encirclement, so he just casually threw out this palm. He didn't even look at Wan Cheng. After all, in his opinion, this person was already dead. Buzz! Just as he pushed out the gust of wind, there was a low sound of wind breaking. A white figure suddenly flashed between the 3 of them, almost ignoring the barrier created by the communication between their auras. You can leave now. You can't hurt this person, and you won't have the chance to get the letter. Bai Xiaoyan flicked her sleeve and canceled out Ku Jie's gust of wind. At the same time, she stood in front of Wan Cheng with her hands behind her back. Little brother, what are you doing? Wan Cheng had already closed his eyes and waited for death. Now that he saw someone suddenly appear in front of him, he was shocked. Someone doesn't want you to die here and asked me to save you. Bai Xiaoyan didn't even look at Wan Cheng and said indifferently, "Who?" Wan Cheng was stunned. In this great thousand world, there were hundreds of people who wanted to kill him, but there was probably no one who wanted to save him. Your divine secret pavilion dares to interfere with our Heavenly Gem Mountain's matters. Seeing Bai Xiaoyan appear, Ku Yu's expression instantly changed. The pavilion master said to let you return to where you came from. Bai Xiaoyan glanced at them indifferently. Although the 3 of them were immortal kings from Heavenly Gem Mountain, they were all quasi-immortal kings and had a huge gap in strength. If they really attacked, the 3 of them might not be able to hurt her even if they joined forces. Isn't this a bit too much? Ku Yu narrowed his eyes. No matter what, he was the young master of Heavenly Gem Mountain. When he was in the eastern region, almost everyone had to give him face. Chapter 1532. And now, in this tiny, immortal ancient city, his plans were actually ruined by someone from the Pavilion of Heavenly Secrets. Although his sect was a bit weaker than the Pavilion of Heavenly Secrets and the Alliance of Immortal Mountains, it was not a soft persimmon that could be trampled on by anyone. Moreover, Bai Xiaoyan's words ignited the anger in Ku Yu's chest. You can't hurt this person today, and you can't take the Immortal Emperor's letter away. I've already said it, so you can do whatever you want. But before you act, you can consider whether your Heavenly Gem Mountain is strong enough to go against the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion and the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance. Bai Xiaoyan did not put them in her eyes at all, and her words did not leave them any face. Ku Jie stared at Bai Xiaoyan for a while. He knew that with the strength of the 3 quasi-immortal kings on his side, they were not a match for her, not to mention the Pavilion Lord of the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion. Even if the Pavilion Lord was only at the first level of the true immortal realm, being able to become a Pavilion Lord with such a cultivation was enough to prove that this person had outstanding ability. Young Master, I think we should take a step back today. Kujie took a step back and whispered to Kuyu. What do you mean? Kuyu frowned, clearly unwilling to agree. The Heavenly Mysteries Pavilions by Xiaoyun is a true immortal king. With our strength, we might not be a match for her. Moreover, offending the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion and the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance at the same time is not a wise move. Although the Immortal Emperor's letter is important, there's no need to cause so much trouble for the Eastern region and Heavenly Gem Mountain. Ku Jie continued to whisper. Impossible. Look at how many people are watching us. If we retreat like this, won't the reputation of Heavenly Gem Mountain and the Eastern region be ruined by us? No matter how strong the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion and the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance are, they can't reach into the Eastern region. Thinking of the Immortal Emperor's letter and by Xiaoyun's disdainful words, Ku Yu would not give up at all. His mind was filled with thoughts of getting rid of the Immortal King in front of him. Young Master, Ku Jie hurriedly advised when he saw Ku Yu's insistence. I've already made up my mind. You three quasi-immortal kings can't even deal with one immortal king. If we lose here, we won't have the face to return to the Eastern region. Ku Yu didn't listen to Ku Jie's words at all. All right, since young master has decided, we will do our best. Ku Jie nodded helplessly in agreement. Who asked Ku Yu to be the young lord of their Heavenly Gem Mountain if they didn't follow his orders? Even if they had the cultivation of a quasi-immortal king, they would still be punished by the sect master when they returned to Heavenly Gem Mountain. Moreover, even though the one before them was a true immortal king, the three brothers had a connection with each other, and the immortal techniques they cultivated were also close. If they worked together, they really might not necessarily be defeated. Bai Xiaoyan looked at them quietly. White Immortal King, our young master has decided on the Immortal Emperor's letter. Ku Jie took a step forward. As he spoke, an even more majestic true qi emerged from his body. As the other two also released their cultivation bases, the three streams of primary energy almost merged into one. And above the three of them, there was a wolf head formed completely from immortal energy. The three wolves were all staring at Bai Xiaoyan. Seeing this, many people burst into an uproar. This was the first time they had seen immortal kings working together, and this majestic aura gradually spread out, pressuring them to the point that they couldn't breathe at all. There were even many people whose legs were trembling slightly. If they hadn't forcefully held on, they would have directly knelt on the ground under this pressure. Is this all the strength you can use? Bai Xiaoyan asked indifferently as she raised her head to look at the wolf head above her. That's right. This is all the strength we can use. White Immortal King, 3 years ago, there was also an Immortal King who came to our Heavenly Gem Mountain to cause trouble. The three of us used this formation to severely injure him and throw him down the mountain. It's still not too late for you to regret it now. Ku Jie clenched his fists tightly, and the immortal energy in his body spread out. Facing a true immortal king, if he didn't use his trump card, he probably wouldn't even know how he died. What a pity! The pavilion master told me to come and save him. Bai Xiaoyan glanced at Jiang Qin in the distance and shrugged. Then there's no other way. White Immortal King, don't blame us for being too ruthless. Ku Jie took a deep breath. As soon as he finished speaking, under his mind control, the wolf head above his head instantly opened its mouth and bit fiercely at Bai Xiaoyan's head. What he said just now was true. This three wolves' immortal devouring formation had indeed severely injured a true immortal king. Facing the pressure coming at her, Bai Xiaoyan didn't dare to underestimate it. When the wolf head was about to touch her, she quickly retreated. At the same time, a wave of energy flashed in her hand, and immortal energy instantly gushed out. Boom! An invisible wave spread out. All the onlookers at the scene were forced to take 2 steps back from the impact. Some of the weaker ones even spat out a mouthful of blood, and their entire aura weakened. Is this the strength of a true immortal king? Many people looked at the place where the battle was taking place in horror. This was just a very simple wave of immortal energy, but it was already unbearable for them. If the Immortal King's attack reached them, they would probably be turned into dust before they could even react. At the same time, This wave of energy also destroyed the wolf head that was about to attack them. Don't be in a daze. Quickly kill this person. If this drags on, we might not be a match for him. Seeing that the wolf head formed by his immortal energy was shattered just like that, Ku Xian frowned. At the same time, he sent a message to the other two quasi-immortal kings. Understood. The two of them looked at each other seriously. Under the spread of immortal energy, one of the wolf heads had been destroyed, and the effect of the three wolves' immortal devouring formation had been reduced by nearly half. The wolf head that had just been formed had almost exhausted all the immortal energy in Ku Xian's body. Now, if he wanted to continue maintaining the stability of the formation, he had to form another wolf head. Ku Xian gritted his teeth and searched for all the immortal energy in his body. In an extremely short period of time, he once again formed another wolf head. However, this wolf head was obviously smaller than the previous one, and it also looked a little weaker. But no matter what, the formation was considered to have been successfully consolidated. If this is the strength of your heavenly gem mountain, then it's really funny. Bai Xiaoyan just watched. In the battle just now, she already understood that the three of them were definitely not a match for her. Kid, don't underestimate our heavenly gem mountain. These words directly angered Ku Xian. It was fine to look down on them, but if she looked down on heavenly gem mountain, it would undoubtedly be a slap to their faces. Show me your trump card, and let me see it properly. Bai Xiaoyun's lips curled into a faint smile. Chapter 1533. Even if you're an immortal king, don't underestimate us. Ku Jie supported himself with both hands. Under his connection, the other two wolf heads also had a connection with him. To put it simply, he had already taken control of the celestial chi of the other two quasi-immortal kings. At this moment, he had already gathered the celestial chi of the other two quasi-immortal kings, and his aura had more than doubled from before. What kind of messy technique is this? Bai Xiaoyan frowned slightly. She naturally felt that something was wrong with the person in front of her. She took 2 steps back and protected Wan Cheng behind her. Little brother, he probably absorbed the immortal chi of the other two and used it for himself. You have to be careful. Wan Cheng also very sensibly hid behind Bai Xiaoyan. With the cultivation of an immortal monarch, it was impossible to get involved in the battle between a quasi-immortal king and a true immortal king. The slightest carelessness would cause one to be reduced to ashes. I know. Bai Xiaoyan nodded. Then can you tell me who you are? I heard that you're from the Divine Secret Pavilion, and your pavilion master asked me to come. I don't seem to have any relationship with your pavilion master, right? Wan Cheng continued. The pavilion master is over there. Bai Xiaoyan pointed at Jiang Chun, who was standing not far away. Jiang Chun, who had been observing the situation, immediately pulled down his black mask when he saw his father looking over, revealing only his eyes. If his father were to find out about this, he would most likely be screwed over. I don't know him. It seems that I've really met a good person today. Wan Cheng glanced at the masked man in the distance and didn't think that he was his son. After confirming that he hadn't seen him, he couldn't help but sigh. Don't worry, good person. I'm only here to save your life on the orders of the pavilion master. As for the immortal emperor's letter and the true feather in your hands, you have to hand them over to me. Otherwise, I'll immediately turn around and leave this place. Bai Xiaoyan immediately explained. Wan Cheng was stunned. However, when he thought about the 3 quasi-immortal kings in front of him and the true immortal king in front of him, this was no longer a situation he could handle. If he didn't hand over the immortal emperor's letter today, he might really die here. All right, I agree. As long as you can save my life, I'll give you these 2 items. After pondering for a moment, Wan Cheng nodded and agreed. No matter how precious the immortal emperor's letter was, it was just a worldly possession. If he lost his life, he would have nothing left. Stand behind me. As long as I'm here today, no one will be able to hurt you. Bai Xiaoyan grinned. While they were talking, the 2 large and 1 small wolf head gradually merged into one under Withering's control. This wolf head was almost solid, and one could even see some solid whiskers and fangs. White Immortal King, this immortal technique is the immortal devouring wolf of our heavenly gem mountain. Within the barrier, as long as you still have a breath, you'll be attacked by the immortal devouring wolf. Controlling such a top-notch immortal technique of the sect, his withered forehead was already covered in sweat, and even his body was a little weak. This was originally an immortal technique used by an immortal king, and now they were only at the quasi-immortal king level. If the three of them didn't cultivate it together, they wouldn't have the chance to use it at all. Oh, then let me see. Bai Xiaoyan waved her hand, and a white sword condensed from immortal qi appeared in her hand. The sword was icy cold, and when the sword's edge was successfully condensed, a chill instantly spread out. Withering closed his eyes. Under his mental control, the immortal devouring wolf opened its mouth and pounced at Bai Xiaoyan. Facing such a fierce attack, Bai Xiaoyan didn't dare to let her guard down. She raised the piercing white sword in her hand and stabbed fiercely at the wolf head. Boom! The white sword and the wolf head's sharp teeth collided fiercely. Even though Bai Xiaoyan's strength was slightly stronger, she still felt slightly strenuous when colliding with the joint attacks of three quasi-immortal kings, and it was even to the extent that she took 2 steps back at the instant of contact before she was able to disperse the force created by the collision. On the other side, the 3 immortal kings led by Withering all groaned, and their faces turned from red to sallow. Although they were able to fight Bai Xiaoyan head-on, they had all sustained significant injuries. Don't relax. Take her down in one fell swoop. Sensing the discomfort in his body, Withering didn't stop. Instead, he shouted at the other 2 in a low voice. If he stopped now, it would undoubtedly be throwing his life away here. Only by continuing to attack Bai Xiaoyan in one go would they have a chance to defeat her. Otherwise, once they relaxed, they wouldn't even have the slightest advantage. The 3 immortal kings of Tianlang Mountain are indeed worthy of their reputation. To be able to fight me head-on with the strength of a quasi-immortal king, you could be considered a powerhouse. After taking 2 steps back and stabilizing her body, Bai Xiaofei looked at them and smiled faintly. Others may be afraid of your divine secrets pavilion, but my Tianlang Mountain isn't. Withering snorted coldly, and the immortal qi in his hand continued to condense. The wolf head that had its teeth cut off howled again. With the support of the 3 immortal qi, the wolf head continued to attack Bai Xiaoyan. And this time, it was obviously more ferocious than before. The 3 immortal kings of Tianlang Mountain were going all out, wanted to kill Bai Xiaoyan here. And Bai Xiaoyan also understood their true intentions. After adjusting her breathing slightly, she once again raised the white sword in her hand and rushed out. Within the formation, Bai Xiaoyan was like a white meteor flashing all over the place. Every swing of her sword was mixed with extremely majestic power. And that wolf head was looking for every opportunity to attack, fiercely pouncing towards Bai Xiaoyan's body. The clash of strength between a quasi-immortal king and a true immortal king wasn't something that could be controlled by a single barrier. When the 4 of them all used their special skills, waves of immortal qi penetrated the barrier and spread out. In front of immortal ancient Doubt City, violent winds rose, blowing sand and stones. Many people couldn't withstand such powerful fluctuations, and thus retreated over 100 steps. However, their eyes were still staring at the area where the battle was going on. A battle between immortal kings wasn't something that could be seen often. Jiang Chun was still sitting on the rock. He held his chin with one hand and couldn't help but yawn. With Bai Xiaoyan making a move, protecting his father shouldn't be a problem. Time passed second by second. Because both sides were using their special skills, the people outside couldn't see the situation inside the barrier at all. However, through the waves of true qi that spread out, they could sense that the battle was still very tense. You dog, I'll definitely take your life. Not far away, Kuyu was looking at Jiang Chun. He clenched his fists, and his eyes were dark. In his heart, he had already put Jiang Chun on his must-kill list. Originally, today's matter was going very smoothly. Even with this distinguished guest of the eternal riverbank, he could still snatch the immortal emperor's letter with the help of the 3 immortal kings of the sect. Chapter 1534. However, the sudden appearance of Jiang Chun had disrupted all of his plans. Based on the current situation, Not only might he not be able to obtain the immortal emperor's letter, but even the three immortal kings in the sect might be injured. Kuyu found it hard to imagine how his father would treat him if he found out that the three immortal kings were injured because of him. Just as he was thinking, a sound came from in front of him. Kuyu hurriedly raised his head and saw that Kuyu, who was originally in the barrier, had suddenly flown out. As he sprayed a mist of blood in the sky, his body landed heavily on the ground more than 10 meters away. Young Master Kuyu struggled a few times, but he felt an abnormal pain all over his body. Before he could even finish his sentence, he fainted. At this moment, the barrier not far away was suddenly broken, and the other two quasi-mortal kings were also beaten back. Bai Xiaoyan stood with one hand behind her back and the other hand holding the sword behind her back, as if she was a sword immortal king. What kind of Tom, Dick, and Harry dares to call themselves immortal kings? I think they should go back and cultivate in seclusion for a few more years. Unfortunately, their injuries are too severe. Even if they can recover, it seems that they won't be fated to become true immortal kings in this lifetime. Looking at the three people who had been defeated by her, Bai Xiaoyan revealed a faint smile. Seeing that the three immortal kings were all injured, Kuyu could no longer hold back and pointed at Bai Xiaoyan and questioned loudly, "Bai Xiaoyan, your divine secrets pavilion has gone too far. This was originally a matter of our heavenly gem mountain and had nothing to do with you. Why did you interfere and ruin my business?" Hearing Kuyu's bandit theory, Bai Xiaoyan casually replied, "Only you are allowed to steal other people's things. Can't our divine secrets pavilion protect you? Very well, you and that whatever pavilion master, just you wait. As long as I'm still alive, there will be a day when I take your lives." Kuyu was so angry that his hands were trembling. However, he had to know that the three immortal kings were already injured. With his strength, he had no chance of injuring this true immortal king of the divine secrets pavilion. He could only say a few harsh words to release the pressure in his heart. "What did you say?" Bai Xiaoyan narrowed her eyes. In the blink of an eye, he was already in front of Kuyu. He raised his sword and pressed it against Kuyu's neck. As long as he exerted a little force, this young master of the eastern region's Tianlang Mountain would become a dead soul under his sword. Everyone held their breaths as they watched the scene unfold. In the past, in the vicinity of immortal ancient Stout City, there had indeed been quite a few cases of robbery or revenge, but there had never been a time when it was as satisfying as this. Xianjun sat on the Dao Child holding the sword, the young master of the eastern region's Tianlang Mountain. Every single one of them was a well-known figure, the power behind them extremely tremendous. Yet now, they were going to die here one after another. This could be considered the most serious matter in immortal ancient Dao City's history. "What do you want?" Kuyu did not even have time to react when he saw Bai Xiaoyan appearing in front of him. He gulped and could not help but ask. Just as his Adam's apple moved slightly, it happened to come into contact with the blade of the sword. Instantly, his skin was cut open, and his blood gradually dripped onto the blade. Feeling the cold pain coming from his neck, Kuyu's pupils suddenly shrank, and even his legs could not help but tremble. "What do you think I'm going to do? If I didn't hear wrongly, you don't seem to be planning on letting us go, right?" Bai Xiaoyan stared into his eyes. "I have a habit of not leaving behind any disasters for myself. Since you want to kill us, then I might as well get rid of you first. Eldest senior brother, please spare his life." Not far away, seeing that Bai Xiaoyan was about to make a move, Jiang Chun pretended to have a hoarse voice and advised, "The pavilion master has spoken, so I'll let you go for now." With Jiang Chen's words, Bai Xiaoyan's mind moved slightly, and the sword formed from immortal energy dissipated. Phew! Kuyu heavily exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He touched the wound on his neck and looked at the blood on his hand. Cold sweat uncontrollably flowed down his forehead and back. This was the closest he had ever been to death in his life. If not for the pavilion master's words, he did not doubt that this immortal king in front of him would have really killed him. Within 1 minute, take your people and disappear from my sight. Looking at the few immortal kings that she had knocked to the ground, Bai Xiaoyan threw down these words and rushed back to Jiang Chen's side. Kuyu did not dare to hesitate. He quickly ran to Kuyu's side and used all his strength to help him up. Although the other two quasi-immortal kings were injured, they were not seriously injured to the point of fainting. The four of them supported each other and quickly left immortal ancient Doubt City. However, Mystic Four, who had been killed by Wan Chung, was still lying on the ground not far away. Seeing the people from Heavenly Gem Mountain leave, the people who were watching the show consciously retreated. They did not dare to fight for the immortal Emperor's letter again. Even three quasi-immortal kings were defeated so miserably when they attacked together. They did not have the slightest chance. Little junior brother, why didn't you get rid of them? Bai Xiaoyan walked in front of Jiang Chun. I only wanted to save the VIP of the Eternal Riverbank. You have already heavily injured the three immortal kings of Heavenly Gem Mountain. If you are too overbearing, you will probably incur their revenge. Moreover, there are many people here. I don't want to bring shame to our pavilion of heaven's secrets. Jiang Chun looked at his father, who was standing not far away. Pa, I didn't think it through. However, little junior brother, Chao Yuqian has already agreed to hand over the immortal emperor's letter and the true feather. As long as we sell them, the 3 billion immortal jade you owe the eternal riverbank will be easily repaid. Bai Xiaoyan patted her head and smiled honestly. She did not have the arrogant appearance from before at all. That's right, Jiang Chun replied. Chao Yuqian, come over. Our pavilion master has something to say to you. Bai Xiaoyan turned around and waved at Wan Cheng, who was standing not far away. Wan Cheng quickly ran over and took the immortal emperor's letter and the true feather. Pavilion master, this is the immortal emperor's letter and the true feather. You sent people to save my life, so these two things are naturally yours. However, I'm a bit curious. I don't seem to have any dealings with your pavilion of heaven's secrets, so why did you save me? While speaking, Wan Cheng was sizing up the pavilion master in front of him. However, Jiang Chun hit it too well. Even though they were standing face to face, Wan Cheng could not see anything wrong. Saving you is, of course, because of the things in your hands. It is also because of your identity. Looking at his disappointing father, Jiang Chun really wanted to swear at him, but he managed to control himself. He pretended to be mature and said in a hoarse voice, "Oh, my identity?" Wan Cheng was dazed. He immediately became vigilant and took 2 steps back. At the same time, he started to think about his movements during this time to see if there was any possibility of him being discovered. Chapter 1535. If his true identity was discovered, it would be very troublesome. After all, he was still imprisoned in the Kunlun Immortal Mountain. Jiang Chun saw that something was wrong with his father and hurriedly explained, "You're a VIP of the Ganges Bank. If I save you, the Ganges Bank will owe me a favor." I see. Hearing Jiang Chun's words, Wan Cheng relaxed. After giving the letter and the Zhen feather to Jiang Chun, Wan Cheng prepared to leave. But just as he was about to turn, Jiang Chun stopped him. "Where are you going?" Jiang Chun frowned. He wanted to know where his father was. "I don't know, probably drifting around." Wan Cheng waved his hand. "AI." Jiang Chun couldn't help but sigh. He was worried about his father's safety. He was also worried that his father would borrow money from the Ganges Bank again. Seeing Wan Cheng leave, Jiang Chun opened the Immortal Emperor's letter. Looking at the obscure words and pictures, Jiang Chun skimmed through 2 lines of it and put it away. This time, he returned to the Kunlun Immortal Mountain to increase his cultivation level. Now that Bai Fengyu and Yin Chang'e had already ascended, if they still maintained their cultivation of true Immortal Stage 1, it would be difficult for them to lend a helping hand in the future. Now that he had the Immortal Emperor's letter, he could go back and ponder over it. If he was lucky, he might be able to break through. The Heaven Secrets Pavilion and the Alliance head of the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance were only level 1 true immortals. If this got out, people would laugh their heads off. Should we get rid of that person? Seeing the crowd leave, Bai Xiaoyan noticed the black-clothed man sitting on the ground. After he was severely injured by Wan Cheng, he had been sitting there paralyzed all along and had not recovered at all. Get rid of him. This guy has a dark attribute. He doesn't look like a disciple of the Black Divinity sect. It won't be a good thing to keep him alive, Jiang Chen said casually, taking the immortal emperor's letter and glancing at it calmly. The reason why he wanted to get rid of this person was because of his father's safety. All right, Bai Xiaoyan nodded. The moment he agreed, a powerful immortal qi burst out from his palm and penetrated the black-clothed man's head. Plop, take this heavy blow. The black-robed man's pupils dilated in an instant. He fell to the ground and stopped breathing. How do you plan to sell this immortal emperor's letter? Or should we return to the ancient city now and sell it? I think it shouldn't be a problem to sell these 2 items for 3.5 billion. After repaying the immortal jades from the Ganges Bank, what's left can support the daily expenses of the Divine Secrets Pavilion. Staring at the immortal emperor's letter in Jiang Chen's hand, Bai Xiaoyan said with fiery eyes. How dare you put your ideas on me? Jiang Chen replied snappily. Of course. You're now the pavilion lord of the Divination Pavilion. Naturally, you have to be responsible for the sect. When Master was around, he was always thinking of ways to make money. Now that you've taken over his position, you have to think of ways to maintain the sect's expenses. Bai Xiaoyan laughed mischievously. With the remaining 1 billion immortal jades, they would be able to eat good food every day for a long time. They would no longer have to suffer like before. A dignified immortal king of the Divination Pavilion was actually more miserable than a small family. If this spread out, no one would believe it. All right. If there's anything left, it'll be our sect's funds. Hearing Bai Xiaoyan's words, Jiang Chen couldn't do anything. Who told him to sit in the pavilion lord's position? Then sell it? Bai Xiaoyan wanted to get the money and go out to eat the dishes she didn't dare to eat before. Let's wait. I want to comprehend the immortal emperor's letter. Maybe I can find an opportunity to advance. There's no rush for the 10,000-mile cloud rock's true feather. Let's sell it together with the immortal emperor's letter. Jiang Chen didn't hesitate and immediately said, When you're done, let me see it too. I've never seen anything left behind by an immortal emperor in my life. Bai Xiaoyan nodded and said, No problem, Jiang Chen said with a smile. After leaving immortal ancient Doubt City, the two immediately returned to Kunlun Immortal Mountain. Jiang Chen didn't mention what happened just now to anyone. As soon as he returned, he entered the 9th Mountain's secret room and went into seclusion. In the pitch-black room, Jiang Chen sat cross-legged on a brick bed. The immortal emperor's letter was placed on a small wooden table in front of him. In the silence, only the sound of flipping pages and breathing could be heard. Even if he couldn't understand the words recorded in the letter with his current cultivation, Jiang Chen wasn't discouraged. Instead, he braced himself and read. Even if he couldn't understand, he had to remember everything inside. Time passed minute by minute. Besides eating and sleeping, Bai Xiaoyan spent most of her time standing at the door of the secret room. All the disciples of the 9th Mountain who passed by were closely watched by her, afraid that they would affect Jiang Chen. At this time, in the eastern region not far from immortal ancient Doubt City, inside Heavenly Gem Mountain, Kuyu brought the unconscious Ku Jie and the other 2 immortal kings back. As soon as they entered the sect, the 4 of them fell to the ground. Kuyu's originally feminine and handsome face directly hit the ground. 2 of his teeth fell out, and his face was also covered in scratches. Young Master, when the disciple standing at the door saw the situation, he quickly went up to support him. When the young master and the 3 immortal kings of the sect went out, they were still fine. How did they become like this in less than half a day? Get out of my way! Kuyu felt that he had lost all his face. He slapped away the hand that the disciple stretched out and shouted angrily. Go and call the sect master and the great elder. One of the half-immortal kings who hadn't fainted used the last of his strength and said weakly. After saying that, he fainted. Okay. The disciple didn't dare to delay and immediately ran into the sect. In less than 10 minutes, many people rushed out from inside. The one at the front was the sect master of Heavenly Gem Mountain, Kuyu's father, Ku Wanjun. On his left and right were the great elder and second elder of Heavenly Gem Mountain. Seeing his son and the 3 immortal kings lying on the ground, Ku Wanjun frowned and shouted angrily. What's going on? The sect master's aura was vividly displayed on his body. Even some of the surrounding disciples couldn't help but feel their legs go soft when they heard it. Looking at his son's face covered in blood, Ku Wanjuan's heart ached. Heavenly Gem Mountain was one of the largest sects in the eastern region. Everyone had to give him face. Ku Yu was his son, so everyone in the eastern region had to respectfully call him Young Master. But now, he had just gone out for a trip and ended up in such a miserable state. Chapter 1536. The disciple stuttered, not knowing how to answer. I told you to speak. Ku Wanjun squinted his eyes and exerted a little force on the disciple. A suction force burst out from his palm. The disciple, who was standing 10 meters away, flew over uncontrollably. Ku Wanjun grabbed him tightly by the neck. If he exerted a little force, he would be crushed to death. Sect Master, we don't know what happened. Young Master was already like this when he came back. We don't know anything. The disciple didn't dare to move. He threw the disciple away. Ku Wanjun immediately went forward and helped Ku Yu up. Dad, avenge me? Seeing Ku Wanjun, all the grievances in Ku Yu's stomach exploded, and he cried out loud. Because his emotions were fluctuating too much, and because of the shock he received in immortal ancient Doubt City, he fainted after crying for a while. Send Young Master back to his room to rest. Ku Wanjun frowned and said. After the disciple carried Ku Yu away, Ku Wanjun squatted down to check on the condition of the 3 immortal kings. From his investigation, the 3 of them had suffered different degrees of injuries. Ku Wanjun's injuries were the most serious. His meridians were damaged. Even if he recuperated, he wouldn't be able to return to his current cultivation. What the hell is going on? Ku Wanjun panted heavily. This undoubtedly weakened the strength of Heavenly Gem Mountain. If the news spread, the clans and sects that they had offended would no longer need to be afraid. They might even join forces to take revenge. At that time, Heavenly Gem Mountain, with the 3 immortal kings all injured, would definitely not be a match for this group of people. Listen to my orders. Immediately seal off the sect. Without my permission, no one is allowed to enter or leave. Also, you all better keep what happened today a secret. If I find out that any of you leaked it out, don't blame me for killing all of you regardless of our relationship as fellow sect members. After pondering for a while, Ku Wanjun ordered the disciples in a low voice. Yes, sect master. The disciples didn't dare to say anything. They could feel the seriousness of this matter. If they didn't do as the sect master said, they might really lose their lives. He brought the 3 immortal kings back to the sect. Ku Wanjun immediately gathered all the higher-ups in the sect. In the hall, Ku Wanjun narrowed his eyes. Ku Wanjun took a deep breath and said in a low voice, Today, Ku Yu brought 3 celestial kings to immortal ancient city in the northern region to bid for a celestial emperor's letter. Apart from Ku Yu, all 3 of them are seriously injured. The 3 of them are all quasi-immortal kings. If the 3 of them were to join forces, even a true immortal king might not be able to stop them. How could they be seriously injured? That's hard to say. Everyone wants to obtain the immortal emperor's letter. Who knows, he might have met an expert. The core members of several sects spoke one after another. Sect Master, I think we should wait for Young Master, Ku Jie, and the others to wake up first. Being able to severely injure the 3 of them is enough to prove that the other party is not an ordinary person. We should observe the situation first before deciding what to do next. The Great Elder stroked his white beard and said in a hoarse voice. Ku Wanjun clenched his fists and said faintly, No matter who they have offended, whether it is right or wrong, I will not allow Tianlang Mountain to suffer such a great grievance. Our sect has been established in the eastern region and has never suffered such humiliation. That's right. Everyone chimed in. If they were to swallow it down, Heavenly Gem Mountain would become the laughingstock of the entire eastern region when the news spread. Not a single clan or sect would think highly of them anymore. Half a day later, Ku Yu woke up. However, the 3 immortal kings, including Ku Jie, were still unconscious. Ku Wanjun had already ordered the stronger members of the sect to treat their injuries. He brought a few elders to Kuyu's room. As soon as they entered, Ku Wanjun asked directly, "What happened? How did you end up like this?" "Dad, it was a young man called Jiangchun. He ordered the immortal kings under him to take action." Kuyu's face turned red when he thought of what happened in Immortal Ancient City. Who is Jiangchun? Ku Wanjun was confused. Logically speaking, someone who could be accompanied by an immortal king was definitely not an ordinary person. With his status and knowledge, he should know everyone. However, he had never heard of this Jiangchun that his son was talking about. "It's the young master of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect." Kuyu gritted his teeth and said, 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect? Ku Wanjun had heard of this sect before, but he still asked curiously, hasn't this sect declined? Even the sect leader has been suppressed in Kunlun Immortal Mountain. How could this person have an immortal king accompanying him? That's right. Young master, did you remember wrongly? The first elder was also very surprised. Absolutely. Not only is he the young master of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect, but he is also the current leader of the Heaven's Secret Pavilion. He seems to be the leader of some overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance. Kuyu sighed deeply. He hated Jiangchun to the core. If he had the chance, he would fight Jiangchun to the death right now. What? Isn't the leader of the Heaven's Secret Pavilion the White Robe Immortal King? When did it become a kid called Jiangchun? Young master, there is no alliance in the overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance. Hearing his words, Ku Wanjun and the other elders were puzzled. No matter how they looked at it, it sounded like he was bragging. It's true. The immortal king following him is called by Xiaoyan. He is the son of the previous leader of the Heaven's Secret Pavilion. He is a true immortal king expert. Seeing that his father did not believe him, Kuyu hurriedly explained, it was Jiangchun who ordered by Xiaoyan to attack us. He took away the immortal emperor's letter that we were about to get and severely injured Ku Jie and the others. This, Ku Wanjun was a little hesitant. If Jiangchun was only the young master of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect, he would not be afraid. After all, this sect had declined a long time ago. With the strength of Heavenly Gem Mountain, they could get rid of it in minutes. However, the Heaven's Secret Pavilion and the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance were enough to make him wary. If they provoked these forces, their Heavenly Gem Mountain would be reduced to dust in an instant. They would never be able to rise again. Young master, how did you offend Jiangchun? With his status, if there was no reason, he would not attack you, right? The great elder paused and asked, moreover, our Heavenly Gem Mountain does not seem to have any grudges with the Heaven's Secret Pavilion and the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance. The Immortal Emperor's letter was bought by a VIP of the Ganges Bank called Chao Chi Chao. I wanted to follow him and snatch it. I did not expect that Jiangchun would want to protect him, so he sent Bai Xiaoyan to attack us, Kuyu said immediately. Chapter 1537. The Ganges Bank. Ku Wanjun was a little stunned. He didn't expect his son to offend so many people when he went out. Originally, he thought that no matter what force the other party was, he would take revenge. But now, it seemed that no matter if it was the mysterious pavilion, the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance, or the Ganges Bank, with the strength of their Heavenly Gem Mountain, they couldn't afford to offend them. Young master, it's a miracle that you came back alive. The great elder sighed. Oh, what does the great elder mean? Kuyu was a little unhappy. It's Jiangchun and Bai Xiaoyan who ruined my plans and even seriously injured the 3 immortal kings of our sect. The mysterious pavilion is the sect of the white-robed immortal king. Not only is he one of the 3 immortal kings, but he also has countless immortal kings and quasi-immortal kings under him. Although the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance is slightly weaker, those sects have all joined together. Now that there's an alliance, our Heavenly Gem Mountain isn't a match for them. The great elder said helplessly. The Ganges Bank is even more terrifying. This force has countless connections in the Great Thousand World. Offending them is equivalent to offending nearly half of the families and sections. You actually dared to steal their VIPs' things. Once the Ganges bank pursues the matter, even I can't protect you. Ku Wanjun also said, Dad, what do you mean by that? Could it be that our Tianling mountain has suffered a loss, and we're going to swallow it? There are many people watching outside Immortal Ancient City. They all saw our heavenly gem mountain make a fool of ourselves. I believe it won't be long before the news spreads. If we don't get back at them, where will our heavenly gem mountain's face go? Kuyu wasn't someone who could swallow his losses. He didn't care about any forces or immortal kings. There was only one thing in his mind. That was to kill Jiang Chun to vent the hatred in his heart. In order to achieve this goal, he could pay any price. Of course we have to take revenge. How can we not pay a price for injuring our heavenly gem mountain's immortal kings? However, this matter needs to be considered at length. Little you, don't worry about this matter for now. Let me handle it. Ku Wanjun stroked his beard as he pondered. I will definitely make Jiang Chun disappear from this world. Kuyu gritted his teeth. Ever since he was born, he had never suffered such grievances. No problem, no problem. Ku Wanjun patted his back. After Kuyu gradually calmed down, Ku Wanjun left with the two elders. As soon as he stepped out of the door, Ku Wanjun sighed. Elders, tell me, what do you have in mind? Ku Wanjun stopped in his tracks, looked around, and asked in a deep voice. Sect Master, it's clear that Jiang Chun isn't someone to be trifled with. He's both the Pavilion Master of the Divination Pavilion and the Alliance Leader of the Overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance. We can't afford to offend him, the first elder said with a frown. You don't have to tell me that. I know. Ku Wanjun waved his hand. In my opinion, it's better to gradually forget about this matter. Our Tianling Mountain has some strength in the East region, but compared to the sects in the great wide world, there's still a big gap. If we offend them, I'm afraid that a disaster will befall our Tianling Mountain. The second elder also persuaded. So I'll think about it again. Hearing the two elders' advice, Ku Wanjun couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. He knew that he couldn't afford to offend these sections. However, now that Kuyu had offended the other party, and Ku Jie and the others were all seriously injured, the strength of Tianling Mountain had been greatly reduced. He really couldn't vent his anger, and he couldn't tolerate someone trampling on his sect. However, now that the two elders were against it, he wouldn't continue to mention this matter. However, in his heart, he was planning how to make a move. Kunlun Mountain. In the blink of an eye, Jiang Chun had been in seclusion for 3 days. During these 3 days, he didn't drink a single drop of water. Bai Xiaoyan had been guarding the door, and the disciples of the 9th mountain knew that if there was nothing, they wouldn't come here. The various celestial kings from the overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance would occasionally come to ask about it. However, they were all rejected by Bai Xiaoyan and asked to stay in Kunlun Mountain. When Jiang Chun wanted to see them, they would naturally appear. When the group of celestial kings heard Bai Xiaoyan's words, they didn't dare to say anything. After all, they were now considered Jiang Chun's subordinates, and Bai Xiaoyan was Jiang Chun's eldest senior brother. In terms of seniority, she was 2 levels higher than them. In order to prevent Jiang Chun from being disturbed again, Bai Xiaoyan simply moved a stool and sat at the door. She lay on it and closed her eyes to rest. 3 days later, in the evening, the door of the secret room was suddenly opened. Hearing the sound of the door opening, Bai Xiaoyan quickly got up. At the same time, she circulated her celestial qi to sense Jiang Chun's current cultivation. Eldest senior brother, there's no need to sense. My cultivation hasn't increased, and I haven't broken through. Sensing the celestial qi spreading out from Bai Xiaoyan's body, Jiang Chun waved his hand and said, Ah? Then why did you come out so quickly? Bai Xiaoyan was a little surprised. I've been studying the Celestial Emperor's letter for 3 days, but I still can't understand it. I'm not in the mood to cultivate. Jiang Chun held the letter in his hand and said lightly, I'm afraid even Master might not be able to understand the things left behind by the Celestial Emperor. Bai Xiaoyan didn't comfort her, but followed Jiang Chun's words. That's right. If I can comprehend the immortal sovereign's things thoroughly, I might be able to make some progress in my cultivation. Then I'll be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. It's a pity that my current aptitude is still too low. Jiang Chun shook his head. Little junior brother, have you thought about something? Bai Xiaoyan asked. What? Jiang Chun turned his head to look at her. This Celestial Emperor's letter sounds nice, but it's actually just something written by the Celestial Emperor. Although it's very difficult for us to understand, there might not be any cultivation methods or celestial arts recorded in it, but some mundane things like eating, drinking, and defecating. Bai Xiaoyan touched her nose and said with a strange expression. Hearing this, Jiang Chun fell into silence. What Bai Xiaoyan said wasn't unreasonable. This letter was just something casually written by the Celestial Emperor. It was very likely to be some mundane things. But thinking about it, if it was just casually written, how could it be so difficult to understand? Jiang Chun didn't continue to dwell on this problem. Instead, he prepared to study it in detail before going into seclusion to cultivate. If he could comprehend it in a month's time, it would definitely be of great help to his cultivation. But if he couldn't comprehend it, he would have to sell it to repay the debt to the Ganges Bank. Although Zhang Jiao didn't say when the deadline was, he couldn't keep delaying it. At that time, if he still couldn't comprehend it, Jiang Chun wouldn't dwell on it anymore. He would just treat it as if he wasn't fated with the things left behind by the Celestial Emperor. Chapter 1538. Bai Xiaoyan stared at the Immortal Emperor's letter in Jiang Chun's hands. After a while, he swallowed his saliva and couldn't resist the temptation. He asked, Little junior brother, can you lend me this Immortal Emperor's letter? Of course, of course. Just as Bai Xiaoyan said that, Jiang Chun handed the Immortal Emperor's letter to him. Looking at the ancient rubbing, Bai Xiaoyan's entire body became excited, and even her breathing became a little rough. This was something left behind by the Immortal Emperor. Even the white-robed Immortal King didn't have the luck to see it. And he just became an Immortal King and got such a treasure. If he could comprehend it, wouldn't he be one step closer to the Immortal Emperor? With this thought, Bai Xiaoyan felt the air around him become sweeter. Big senior brother, if you're lucky enough to understand it, then just wait and see. If we're not lucky, then I'll sell it in a month and pay off the debt to the Ganges Bank. I'm worried that the longer this drags on, the more interest there might be. Jiang Chun couldn't help but sigh as he handed the Immortal Emperor's letter to Bai Xiaoyan. If his father didn't owe money to the Ganges Bank, then he could keep this letter with him. Even if he couldn't now, he would be able to understand it sooner or later. Understood, I'll try my best, but you can transcribe it for the seniors and juniors in the pavilion. Bai Xiaoyan took the Immortal Emperor's letter and said excitedly, That makes sense. Big senior brother, you can transcribe it. Jiang Chun nodded in agreement. Then what are you planning to do during this period of time? You're not planning to cultivate in seclusion. After the excitement, Bai Xiaoyan frowned and asked. Jiang Chun returned to Kunlun Celestial Mountain to cultivate in seclusion. Now that he was out, there seemed to be no use for him to stay here. I'll wait for you to transcribe it and then take a look. Although the Immortal Emperor's letter is difficult to understand, I think if I keep studying it, I'll be able to understand it a little bit. Moreover, the Immortal Emperor's words can benefit us for the rest of our lives and help us avoid detours. Jiang Chun took a deep breath and said with a smile, Okay, no problem. I'll go and make a copy and send it to you before dark. Bai Xiaoyan nodded vigorously in agreement. Watching him leave, Jiang Chun turned around and returned to the secret chamber. Sitting in front of the wooden table, he continued to recall the words recorded in the handbook. Eastern region. Inside Tianlang Mountain. After 3 days and 3 nights of rest, Ku Jie and the others woke up. Ku Wanjun rushed over as soon as he received the news. At this moment, Ku Jie was resting on his bed. His meridians were all broken and his internal organs were damaged. He was extremely weak. If it weren't for the fact that his eyes were still moving and his complexion close up, one would think that he was a corpse lying there. Ku Jie, I heard that you have woken up. How do you feel? Ku Wanjun strode in and stood in front of the bed. Looking at the sect master who had been tortured to such an extent, he felt as if his heart was bleeding. I'm fine, sect leader. Where's the young master? Is he still safe? Ku Xie was overwhelmed by the sect leader's personal arrival. He struggled to sit up and salute. Ku Yu is fine. Ku Jie quickly pressed down on his shoulders and made him continue to lie on the bed. Just lie on the bed and rest. Now that your body is so severely injured, you don't have to care about the formalities in the sect. Thank you, sect leader, Ku Jie replied weakly. What happened a few days ago? You told me that some pavilion leader of the Tianji pavilion ordered his immortal king to attack you. Are you sure? Ku Wanjun picked up a cup of water and asked. That's right. That's how he introduced himself. He even said that he was the alliance leader of the overseas Immortal Mountain Alliance and the disciple of the ninth mountain of the Kunlun Immortal Mountain. He had a lot of titles, but the immortal king under him was indeed very strong. The three of us joined forces and used our best skills, but we didn't hurt him at all. Instead, we ended up in this state. Ku Jie sighed and said helplessly, Seems like it's true. I didn't expect him to be an expert from the Tianji Pavilion. It's not unjust that you lost to him. However, since he injured you, I naturally won't let him off easily. Our Tianlang Mountain can still deal with an immortal king. Oh right, what's the cultivation of that Jiangchun? Ku Wanjun frowned. I'm not sure. He might be an immortal king. It's said that he's at the first layer of the true immortal realm. Ku Jie thought carefully and didn't dare to answer with certainty. It's fine. It doesn't matter how strong he is. It's the same. Ku Wanjun narrowed his eyes and remembered everything Ku Jie said. Sect leader, you're not thinking of attacking them, right? Ku Jie had a bad premonition when he saw Ku Wanjun's expression. Of course. He injured you to such an extent. If I pretend that nothing happened, then there's no need for me to be the sect leader anymore. Ku Wanjun snorted coldly. Ku Jie became agitated when he heard this. Sect leader, that day in Immortal Ancient City, we didn't want to make a move. It was the young master who wanted to get the Immortal Emperor's letter. Now that we've offended him, it's not good for our Tianlang Mountain if we continue to be entangled with him. Due to his agitation, Ku Jie coughed violently before he could finish his sentence. I've already decided. It's useless no matter what you say. The incident in Immortal Ancient City will spread out soon. If we do that, our Tianlang Mountain's reputation will be tarnished in the eastern region. We won't be able to raise our heads again. Ku Wanjun frowned. No matter who tried to persuade him, he wouldn't listen to them. He said, if we don't take revenge, how can we survive in this world? Suddenly, a gloomy voice rang out in the room. The doors and windows of the room were instantly shut, making a loud noise. Who's there? Ku Wanjun stood up and looked around vigilantly. He didn't bring anyone with him when he came to visit Ku Jie. Moreover, he didn't sense anyone in the room. Now that he suddenly heard this voice, it made his hair stand on end. However, he was in his own sect after all, so he didn't panic too much. You don't need to know who I am. You just need to know that we have the same goal. We can work together. That's enough. A moment later, a cloud of black fog appeared in the room. Then, the atmosphere in the room became strange. It even felt a little oppressive. That voice came from the black fog. Who are you? Seeing such a strange situation, Ku Wanjun instantly activated his immortal chi. A wolf head bigger than the one Ku Jie released appeared above his head. The wolf head was almost completely materialized. One could see a pair of eyes flashing with green light. One could vaguely see gray-green fur. One could even feel the hot breath coming from the wolf's nose. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.